Mr. Bernardo is working with some of our delegates to get them on, and we have to postpone our national anthem for tonight, unfortunately. So let's get started. Due to efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19 and to protect all individuals, the council chambers at Town Hall will not be open to the public to attend council meetings until further notice. Members of the public who have an interest in a matter listed on the agenda may, up until 10 a.m. on the day of the scheduled council meeting, email councilagenda@orangeville.ca indicating your request to speak to a matter listed on the agenda. A phone number and conference ID code will be provided to you so that you may join the virtual meeting and provide your comments to council. Members of the public wishing to raise a question during the public question period of the council meeting may beginning at 8:30 p.m. on the evening of the council meeting. Call 1-289-801-5774 and enter conference ID 370-693-636#. Correspondence and email submitted will be considered as public information and entered into the public record. If you require access to information in an alternate format, please contact the Clerk's Division by phone at 519-941-0440, extension 2256, or email at clerksdepartment@orangeville.ca. Earlier tonight, we had a closed meeting, and we'll talk to that in a few minutes. I want to acknowledge the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people, including the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Odawa of the Three Fires Confederacy. This meeting is being aired on public television and or streamed live, and may be taped for later public broadcast or webcast. Your name is part of the public record and will be included in the minutes of this meeting. Coming out of our close, we have a rise and report recommendation that confidential PS 2020-005 regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, public office holders, sustainable Orangeville appointments and vacancies to be received, and that a confidential verbal report from Ray Osmond, General Manager, Community Services regarding the position, plan, procedure, criteria, instruction to be applied to any negotiation carried on or carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, and a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. This is regarding Artel Inc.'s parking lot lease agreement at 112 Broadway, and the recommendation is that we receive. May I have a motion to receive this, please? You got Mayor McIntosh? Excuse me, and to add and let staff proceed as directed. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Deputy Mayor, that's okay, that addition. And seconded by Councillor Andrews. All in favor?
Yes.
Moving on to item 10, we have the adoption of minutes of previous council meetings. Items 10.1 through 10.5. May I have a motion to adopt those, receive those minutes. Councillor Post, second by Councillor Sherwood. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Passed. Moving on to presentations and delegations. Mr. Bonato, how are we making out with the hospital folks?
I got one of them in here. Teams get us two. I don't know if that's enough or we can start with
Who do you have on board?
Teams get us two is one of their accounts. I have to look at it specifically.
Okay.
Ken, information I don't know if they're comfortable with that moving forward, or we can start with Ruth and I can keep trying here.
Okay. So the folks that are on board right now from Headwaters Healthcare, can you identify yourselves who's registered in this meeting?
Hi, Mayor Brown. It's Kim Delahunt. Can you see me or hear me?
Yeah, we can. Yes. Sounds like the who there. See me, feel me.
And
Okay.
I think Tom Reed is on.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the board chair, my board chair Lori Kerr or Jennifer Hamilton, maybe by phone.
Okay.
Yeah, Lori Kerr's here.
Great.
So Kim, question to you: Are you prepared to move ahead now? It's only about 3 of your 5 delegates on board. Is that?
Yes, we can proceed, Mayor Brown. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us tonight, Ms. Delahunt, and please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you. And if I just could confirm, I think someone on your end was going to project the slides because I don't think I am able to.
I had it summoned to me, but I wasn't prepared for that.
Oh, actually, hold on. I might be able to. Give me 1 second. I think. Oh, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful.
Okay, very good.
Okay, then I will proceed. I'm not able to see if anyone raises a hand or anything. So please, if you want to jump in during the presentation, please do so. Otherwise, happy to take questions at the end. So thank you, Mayor Brown and Council for having me here this evening. As you know, I'm Kim Delahunt. I'm the President and CEO at Headwaters Healthcare Center. And with me here virtually tonight, as I mentioned, is our board chair, Lori Kerr, and Tom Reed, Chief of Dufferin County Paramedics, and Jen Hamilton, Director of Communications and Stakeholder Relations, is on the phone. And I think most of you know that I started my role as CEO at Headwaters in the fall of 2019. And in fact, just a couple of weeks ago, I marked my first year anniversary. And boy, what a year has it been.
Great timing, Kim.
Absolutely. Nothing like trial by fire. I actually wanted to start by saying thank you to you, Mayor Brown, to your fellow councillors, and to Town of Orangeville staff. We have been bolstered by the support you have shown us from the very early days of the pandemic, whether it was a show of support with your virtual coffee chats and support with the COVID-19 Assessment Center or the Youth Art Project, and sharing important information about what was happening at the hospital on your website and social media channels, or sharing very valuable PPE contacts with us. The list is very long, and I really wanted to thank you all for your support of the hospital. Our partnership is very strong, and we are grateful for all of the collaboration and support that we receive. To start, I just wanted to say how I am constantly amazed at how much has been accomplished over the past year at the hospital, even in the middle of a pandemic. And much of this has been due to the partnerships that we have with others. And we've been fortunate to see the results from our work within our new strategic plan. And that was launched at last year's annual general meeting. And that's the slide that's on the presentation right now. And as you'll recall, this our strategic plan was written and was created with the input of many engagement sessions and input from lots of folks around Dufferin-Caledon. And I think you would agree that over the past few months in particular, our purpose statement in the middle there of one community caring together has never been more appropriate. Our strategy for the next 2 years is still grounded in our 3 strategic directions down the left there. And it's also grounded in our values that we live and we demonstrate each and every day down the right-hand side. And our values are put into action each and every day by all of our staff and physicians. And to support this work along the bottom, we have and we continue to invest in new and more creative solutions to serve our community, as well as to continue to pay careful attention to how we spend each and every dollar. It would be impossible for me to present tonight without acknowledging the significant efforts and what our new normal looks like at the hospital as we started with the pandemic. And without question, the pandemic turned our world upside down in a matter of days. As I mentioned, our team at the hospital and with our paramedic partners, working along with community partners, including our elected officials and municipal and county staff, we managed to right the ship very early on and very effectively. It is an ever-changing solution, and even though we're planning ahead, we often have to act and react quickly based on public health or ministry guidance and directives. And one such example that you'll all be recalling, I'm sure, is that just a week ago or so, as a result of new guidance from the province, we had to adjust our assessment center to move to being able to provide booked appointments all over the course of a weekend. I'm really pleased to say that the county came to the rescue and offered up their call center and some of their staff to staff it for the first few days. And Orangeville Public Works staff also helped us with signs and barricades that are still in place at our hospital site. It was a huge effort, and we were able to make it happen on time with the kindness and collaboration of so many. So again, thank you. Our challenges and solutions in our initial response are many. We initially had to postpone many surgeries and treatments, and the incredible teamwork that put together a ramping up strategy that we're currently working through is addressing what we need to ensure that anxious patients waiting for procedures can be cared for as soon as possible. We had to rapidly source additional and critical personal protective equipment for staff, and passion that was shown by ensuring our staff and patients yielded creative ways to ensure we obtained what we needed. We did have to redeploy staff to many different areas throughout the hospital, and that took courage and kindness, and many of our staff tried new things and thrived and were welcomed by new colleagues with patience and goodwill. The loss of our hospital volunteers due to the COVID-19 restrictions was unfortunate, and we miss them in many areas of the hospital, and that continues. We continue to rework many of our protocols and procedures, such as medication dispensing, to ensure safety of patients and staff, and teamwork enables agile adaptation to new ways of doing things daily at Headwaters. We had to rapidly deploy a COVID-19 assessment center, which included staffing, equipment, development of procedures. All 4 of our values shone through among the women and men who staff, support, and manage the assessment center. And this was, as you'll recall, accomplished in record time, as we did stand this up in less than a week. We're also working with the county and other community partners to finalize plans for a new interior location for the assessment center, as our current tent, as you can imagine, is not winterized. Our plans will be communicated very soon, as we do plan to move the swabbing inside the hospital. And finally, we did support a serious outbreak in a long-term care home, and that also demonstrated how our team lives our values each and every time they come to the hospital. I just wanted to share a few of the numbers from our annual report last year, just to highlight. We saw over 41,000 people in our emergency department. We had nearly 25,000 outpatient visits. There were over 2,500 oncology consultations and close to 1,500 chemotherapy treatments done at Headwaters. We completed nearly 796,000 lab tests and close to 30,000 diagnostic imaging tests. And we had 5,900 admissions to our inpatient units. At Headwaters, we do have over 760 staff, including 158 physicians, dentists, and midwives, 453 volunteers, and we did welcome 39 medical students last year. Some of the key hospital updates that I just want to highlight, and these really show how we continue to get even better at Headwaters, is that we continually redevelop our patient and family engagement strategy, where patients, families, and caregivers share their lived experiences with us and help us find better ways to improve our services. We're forever grateful for their time and expertise. They have served on our hiring panels, a number of hospital committees. They've been on the editorial committee for our annual report this year, and they provided feedback on our reopening plans, including how we ramped up our hospital again, and our new visitor policy. We have also created 2 new board of director positions called patient and family caregiver directors, and these are really to ensure that we keep bringing the patient lens to all of the work that we do at the hospital. We introduced a new wireless fetal monitor and new machines in the lab, and we also launched several new online tools to increase access to health records, and we are partnering with 3 other hospitals to replace our health information system. And this will provide a seamless integration of information between hospitals and clinicians and provide advanced functionality for accessing patient records and other health information. Last year, we also achieved the Level 1 Choosing Wisely Canada designation for our efforts in reducing unnecessary tests and treatments. And we are participating in a hospital 1-year mortality risk project, or known as HOMER for short. And this uses information pulled from our health information system to help identify patients who may benefit from a palliative approach to care. And we renewed our urology program to treat diseases and disorders of the urinary system in men and women. And lastly, we do have a new spinal assessment and education clinic for patients with long-term back pain who are considering surgery, and also a new rapid access clinic for patients considering hip or knee replacement surgery. Some of our hospital facility improvements that occurred over the last year was definitely in our main lobby. I'm sure some of you will recall our old spiral staircase. Well, that has been removed, and now we are really pleased to welcome our patients and visitors in a more modern, safe, and accessible space with a new staircase. We are really fortunate that all of this work was through the generosity of members of the community through our hospital foundation and our hospital auxiliary. And the newly completed main lobby area called the Joan and Paul Waiter Welcome Center is named in honor of generous local donors. We're so grateful to Joan and Paul and the hospital auxiliary whose contributions made that renovation possible. And a smaller separate project is nearly complete, and that is to redevelop the main entrance overhang and provide a safer drop-off space for patients and families. And we're also developing the nearby patio space with support from our Friendship Gardens volunteers. And last year, the picture in the middle there at the right-hand side, we were able to complete some renovations to our pediatric areas, which were transitioned into comforting spaces with beautiful murals, technological upgrades, and that was thanks to the Smile Zone Foundation. Within our third strategic direction of providing integrated care close to home, we know that we cannot do the work we want to do and need to do across Dufferin Caledon without the support from our many partners in care. In early December of last year, MPP Sylvie Jones announced that the Hills of Headwaters Collaborative was one of the province's first 24 Ontario health teams, and that announcement brought together close to 40 partners, including primary care physicians and specialists, our municipalities and the county. And we have working groups in the areas of palliative care, virtual or digital care, mental health and addictions, and primary care, among others. And they continue to do great work and are currently reconfirming their first-year priorities in the midst of our pandemic. And the pandemic has also emboldened the teams to work even harder together to find more opportunities to collaborate to ensure all people, including our vulnerable populations and congregate settings, are well taken care of. And a prime example of this was the development of a regional approach to ensuring that there is adequate PPE for all of our partners. And the county has stepped up along with the hospital to provide the necessary storage space for PPE and the distribution and securing of that. And the collaborative has also undertaken several supportive activities to help people in crisis and actually held a virtual memorial service. And recently, the Community Wellness Council met to update members of the community and to talk about a caregiver ID project that you will hear more about in the very near future. I always would like to pause and recognize some of our local heroes, as there are many across Dufferin Caledon. We have a hero named Carla, the top left there, who is on our surgical nursing team. She helped a couple deliver their newborn baby Molly outside of our hospital entrance. And heroes like local physicians, Dr. Michael Gagnon and Dr. Charlie Joyce, who were this year's Dr. David Scott Award recipients. Both physicians have made countless contributions to our communities. And a hero like Trey Nevin, that's the bottom left there, who is on our nursing staff. Trey, along with her daughters and husband, contracted the COVID-19 virus. She told her story in a video as a cautionary tale, but also as a story of hope and courage. I hope you guys are seeing the slide that I'm seeing because it's on my screen. And heroes like our staff and physicians each and every day, and community partners whose selflessness and dedication ensures we are cared for when we need it. The COVID-19 pandemic, I'm almost done, has certainly put a strain on financial resources at our hospital and across the province, as you all know. Last year, you'll see in our annual report, we ended our year with a deficit position of $717,000. Just prior to the onset of the pandemic in March, the hospital was projecting to have a small surplus of $130,000. Last year, our revenues did increase, which was great. However, our expenses increased even more, and that's largely due to annual inflationary costs, increased drug costs, and one-time adjustments. So at Headwaters, we do continue to be faced with some financial pressures. Looking forward, we're preparing, definitely, and continually preparing for what wave 2 might look like, although I think some would say that we are in wave 2 of the pandemic. So daily, we're reprioritizing and confirming our plans as we move forward. We have welcomed essential visitors back to the hospital, and we know that our future will be different, but what will not change is our commitment to caring for the people in our communities. And we will also continue strengthening all of our partnerships. As I mentioned, the COVID-19 pandemic has put a strain on our financial resources. However, we are still always incredibly grateful for the support of the foundation and our hospital auxiliary, whose work has been made more challenging due to the pandemic. However, they persevere as well. We do plan to complete our accreditation next year with flying colors, and our hospital gardens and grounds continue to evolve under the leadership of Friendship Gardens team volunteers whose work continues to bring joy to staff, patients, and families. And I also want to extend a heartfelt thanks to everyone who has supported our hospital with donations over the past year. It has allowed us to keep pace with best practices in technology and equipment and continues to improve our overall patient experience. In closing, I just want to reiterate that there are always many ways to reach out to our hospital, many ways to get involved. And you can see the contact info on this slide here. And then just to finish off, I just want to mention that, you know, each and every day I continue to be inspired by the Headwaters team and how hard they're working and the great work that they do each and every day. And it really is this inspiration that I extend to our community partners and for the work that we do together. None of our achievements over the last year would have been possible without that dedication from everyone across Dufferin-Caledon. And I totally feel that our singular purpose of one community caring together really captures the pride, the ingenuity, the caring, and togetherness that is reflected across our community. So thank you all, and Mayor Brown, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I will stop sharing my screen so that you can see everyone.
Okay. Ms. Delman, thank you for your presentation. So fortunate, your institution amongst us, and we're really thankful for all that you do and all of your frontline workers have done during the pandemic. So, and it's been a pleasure to help along the way. So thank you very much. Councillors, anybody have any comments or questions? Mr. Andrews, go right ahead, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Your Worship, and Ms. Delahunt, thank you on behalf of our community, members of council. I don't want to speak for my members, but I think we generally would end up having a very similar tone. Thank you for everything that you and your team, your staff, Ms. Kerr, as well as the board chair, Mr. Reed, for the fabulous work the paramedics have done in our community, and Ms. Hamilton as well for communications. For someone who, in fact, had to deal with a personal health issue at Headwaters last year, you have an opportunity to see how well the machine is oiled and how it is run. And again, all I can do is say thank you on behalf of myself and my family for what I had to deal with. But first-rate care, it is really the jewel of our region. And again, I'm going to end up just asking a couple of questions. As you've indicated your deficit at this point, and again, I think that was based on your financial information as of March of 2020. Where do you see this deficit going, especially with the pandemic? I know it's somewhat premature, but I would assume that you have somewhat of a handle of some of those escalating costs. Is there information that you might be able to share without diving into some information that may not be at this time able to be shared?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the question. So we are projecting our numbers as much as we can monthly. We have run our projected expenses for COVID. We do have to submit them monthly to the ministry. So just to give you an example, we are projecting that our costs to respond to the COVID pandemic will be around the $8.4 million mark at the end of this fiscal year. Part of that is obviously operating expenses. Primarily, the assessment center is a big driver, but there are new roles that we've had to implement at the hospital, such as screeners. There's enhanced cleaning protocols that we've had to implement. I'm sure you're aware costs of cleaning supplies, PPE, have gone through the roof across the province. Yes. We're all experiencing that. To date, so we have submitted our expenses until the end of July. We're just about to submit till the end of August. We have received coverage for our March and April expenses from the ministry, which is excellent. However, there are 2 buckets of expenses that are not covered to date, and these will pose a significant impact to Headwaters. So the ministry is not covering any capital expenses. So for for March and April, our capital expenses were around $200,000 just for the first 2 months. We're anticipating those will be closer to $800,000 by the end of the fiscal year. So there are pieces of equipment, there are capital items that we've had to purchase. And the other bigger impact is lost revenue. So I think you're probably aware that our tent is currently situated in one parking lot, and when you drive around the building, there's another parking lot. We've lost revenue for 2 parking lots since March. And then there's obviously lower revenues in the cafeteria and just lower patient activity for the first 6 months of the year that have caused some of our OHIP billings to decrease and some other revenue sources. So our projected shortfall with the revenue is 1.4 million at the end of this fiscal. So that, for our size organization, that will pose a big impact at the end of this fiscal year, if not reimbursed by the ministry. Lost revenue is a tough one. They've, never covered that in the past. Again, we're not alone. So the ministry to date not covering capital or lost revenue, that's affecting all hospitals across Ontario. But certainly we've taken, I think, a bigger hit just because of where we had to quickly put our tent for the assessment center.
Well, thank you very much for your candidness and openness about the financial implications of COVID. And I know that literally across the province, we're having to deal with that in many different sectors. One other question, and this is as for physician recruitment. I cherish my moments with Dr. David Scott many years ago, where he was, of course, really a part of the physician recruitment in our region, and so pleased of the 2 physicians that you mentioned on them winning the award. What are some of the challenges you see forthcoming for physician recruitment in the community and also for the hospital itself?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we're blessed in the community that we live and work in because it is a great community. However, there's a couple areas that we're currently recruiting for. So right now we're actually recruiting for another pediatrician. And that is a highly specialized area. We do have a number of leads on individuals. However, the few that we have leads on, they are either coming from other countries. So Ireland is an example. There's a candidate. There's a number of hoops that they have to go through and qualifications that they have to go through and obtain to be able to practice in Ontario. So there's some process issues, I'll say. The other area that, to date, we're fortunate Headwaters. We don't have trouble recruiting. I think you saw that we recruited our most recent ER physician. First one we've had to recruit in a number of years, but we did not have a challenge, which was great. It's a highly coveted team that people want to be part of. We're fortunate in that regard. However, I'm going to flip it a bit to say that our size hospital does have some challenges with having some single specialty physicians and specialists at the hospital. And with that, there are some operating challenges where the hospital does need to top up and compensate some of their administrative activities. A good example is, and this is into the weeds, but I just want to highlight it because it is something that medium-sized hospitals are advocating for. There's on-call funding. So when a physician is on call, gets called in the middle of the night, there's a bucket that was provincially awarded previously called HOC funding, hospital on-call coverage. And when you have a single specialist, there's no one to share that with them. So an example is we have a urologist. He's pretty much he's working 24/7 almost every day. When there's an emergency, he gets called in. And that funding right now isn't available. It'd be nice if we could at least compensate him, and it was a ministry bucket. They've paused that program a number of years ago. All of our size hospitals have been advocating to reopen that, and I know it is going into the negotiations. The ministry is going to be negotiating with the Ontario Medical Association starting in the next couple of months. I know it's at the top of their list because, again, when you've got single specialists, it's hard to be able to support them with that on-call coverage. Individuals can't work 365 days a year.
No.
Thank you very much.
Good. Any other questions or comments from councillors? Councillor Taylor.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Nice to see you, Ms. Delahunt. Thank you very much for coming this evening. I just would like to call out, a word of thanks to your friend who's on this call, and that's my friend Jennifer Hamilton. We've been involved in quite a few projects together, her and I, and I just would like to call out how wonderful it is when someone gets back to you in a hurry with solutions, and not just gets back, but actually pushes you to the point where she's been waiting for me to get back to her. So it's great what's been going on at the hospital with the neighborhood. I know there was some issues with COVID in the tent with the neighbors that are up there, and it sounds like they were quickly addressed as well. So I'm just really appreciative. I know Rolling Hills appreciates the hospital being there, and it's great that the hospital is working so hard at being such good neighbors, and it's appreciated. And thank you, Jennifer.
I echo your thanks, Todd. She's wonderful.
Yes.
Yes. And just to follow up on Councillor Taylor's thoughts, we have Ms. Kerr on the line. I know I've known Lori for a number of years. She's a great community advocate as well. And thank you for your time on the board and foundation, and also, of course, Mr. Reed, who's instrumental in helping getting the assessment center set up. And thank you, Tom, for all that you do for us as well. So that being said, I guess we'll thank you again for making your presentation and informing us about what's going on at the hospital and all things with respect to our medical care here in Dufferin County and Caledon. So thank you very much, Kim, for presenting today. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. Thank you, Council. Have a nice evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to our next agenda item, we have Ruth Phillips, Manager of Economic Development for the town of Orangeville. Ms. Phillips, you could, yeah.
Good evening, Your Worship.
Yeah.
Dan, you're gonna share that slide? Thank you. So just as we get started, Your Worship, as Council knows, in June, the town launched a COVID business recovery plan, and it outlined various actions to support business recovery from the pandemic. As one element of that plan, the Economic Development Office has been conducting periodic surveying of the business community. Our first survey was completed in the initial stages of the shutdown, and it consisted of an electronic survey of 191 businesses. Over the course of the summer, and as the pandemic and as the province began easing restrictions for business operations, most ventures began to move into stage 3 reopening steps. As a result of this transition, between August 17th and September 10th, the office undertook a second survey, completed in partnership with the County of Dufferin and the town of Shelburne. Our second round of outreach shifted from online surveying to targeted sectoral interviewing of the business community. We reached out to businesses across various sectors representing the town's business makeup, with some additional emphasis on the tourism-related sectors that have been hard hit by the pandemic. One-to-one contact enabled staff to obtain more detailed information from participating business owners and to provide immediate, customized assistance and information wherever possible. In total, 41 interviews were conducted. They were very well received, and participating business owners expressed appreciation for the direct contact. Tonight, I just wanted to share some of the results of our Orangeville survey and take a moment to applaud our business community. Overall, the resiliency of our local ventures has been very impressive. So I'll just get you to flick to the next one, Dan. First, as part of our surveying, we asked questions about capacity. 68% of businesses contacted advised that they had remained open in some capacity throughout the pandemic, and another 29% had reopened after a temporary closure. Of their overall capacity, 63% of respondents advised that they were operating at 75% or better of their total capacity, and 28% of all respondents indicated that they were operating at 100% or better. However, when we examined capacity within various sectors, it became apparent that some have been harder hit than others. Retail capacity, for instance, varied depending on the type of trade conducted. On average, though, 55% of retailers were working at 75% or better. In accommodation and food services, this number dropped to 27%, and most of these businesses, 46%, were operating between 50 to 74% of their capacity. Arts, entertainment, and recreation businesses were also operating under capacity, with 55% of our ventures advising of operational levels below 49%. And just next slide, Dan. Respondents were also asked to define their current monthly revenue as a percentage of their revenue compared to the same time last year. Overall, 53% of ventures were generating revenues of 75% or more compared to the same time last year, and 32% were at 100% or better. Again, however, and not surprisingly, while the majority of businesses were at or close to last year's normal, this dropped for accommodation and food services and for the arts, entertainment, and recreation sector. 33% of accommodation and food service businesses advised of revenues at 75% or higher, and 45% of arts, entertainment, and recreation businesses advised of revenues of 49% or less compared to last year. Having said that, however, I would like to point out that while retailers and food establishments in particular express concerns for the upcoming winter season and their capacity to weather another closure, they also expressed a great deal of appreciation for the efforts by council to quickly respond to their needs, and they attributed the expanded and extended patio space and season to the recovery success to date. If we just go on to the next slide. In terms of workforce, 51% of our businesses anticipated no changes to their workforce within the next 3 months. 46% anticipate hiring additional staff, and only one business indicated that there would be layoffs. And in this case, that is very much a seasonal norm for that venture. Employers were also asked about their pre-COVID versus current employment numbers. Surprisingly, the total number of jobs has actually increased by 23% from our pre-COVID time. We heard loud and clear that employers have concerns regarding the SERVE program and the lack of accountability required by its applicants. Employers have jobs that need to be filled, and they are struggling to fill them. I believe some of these concerns are being addressed in the newer and modified SERVE program that will ensue shortly. We also asked questions about remote working habits. Prior to February 1st, 13% of businesses indicated that their staff had worked remotely in some capacity, but this had grown to 30% by June. Next slide, Dan. In terms of procurement and sales, when questioned about their ability to receive and deliver goods, most businesses indicated few significant issues. Delays initially in obtaining PPE had been anticipated by our office, and in May we launched a database of local and regional PPE providers for businesses to access. Receiving product from overseas or prefabricated materials from manufacturers that had closed for a period, especially lumber, were most notable concerns. Next slide. We also surveyed the business community about their uptake of emergency funding programs. The Canada Emergency Response Benefit, or CERB, was the most widely accessed program, with 48% of employers advising that staff had accessed it. Another 40% of businesses had accessed the Canada Emergency Business Account, offering interest-free loans until December of 2022. And 28% had taken advantage of the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. The Commercial Rent Assistance Program was the least utilized resource. Next slide. In general, the majority of businesses, 68%, felt that they were getting enough information on business supports available and advised of a wish to remain abreast of information we were providing, particularly about financial and funding opportunities. Our office has developed a pretty robust communication program, so it was gratifying to see that the significant resources that we've dedicated to keeping the COVID lines of communication open have been successful. Those who were looking for additional information were added to our distribution network, and we were able to address issues as they arose. Next slide. In terms of top concerns, when asked about their outlook for the remainder of 2020, the top 3 concerns cited included a fear of a global or Canadian recession, the financial impact of COVID on their operations and liquidity, and fears for decreasing consumer confidence and spending. And if you just go to the next slide, Dan, we also asked businesses to share 2 or 3 words that describe how they were feeling as business owners. This word graph summarizes their responses, and as you can see, cautiously optimistic were words that we heard frequently. And while there is a level of moderate optimism, I think too that business owners are concerned about the second wave and their ability to withstand the level of restrictions that we saw under phase 1. Next slide. Finally, based on the responses to our questions about our greatest opportunities and suggestions for moving forward, a few key themes emerged. Between March and September, inquiries to our office grew by more than 15% over the same time last year, and business owners continue to seek the services that we offer. A shift to predominantly online service provision has not proven to be a deterrent to our audience. We'll continue to monitor pandemic shifts, adapt our services accordingly, and capitalize on any programs available to meet business needs. The availability of consistent and reliable high-speed internet was identified as a challenge, and we're making great progress on this front. Council's efforts to partner with Whiteman to bring a $56 million fiber project to town is great news as we move forward, and installations are now underway in the business park. A number of respondents also recognized the need to begin adopting digital practices. The need to support these ventures as they adapt to new ways of conducting business, particularly through the delivery of online sales and services, will continue to be important. Recognizing that, our office has implemented a second digital Main Street program available until February 2021 that will help local entrepreneurs to take their businesses online. This month, we also received news of increased temporary funding until September 2021 so that our office can deliver intensified and specialized assistance to businesses as they adapt to the changing marketplace, adopt innovative ways of conducting business, and grapple with the marketing and financial challenges that they face. As opposed to loans, this program will aim to provide entrepreneurs with the tools and knowledge that they need to build future success. We'll also continue to ensure that workshops and seminars offered through the office focus on digitalization efforts by business. Buy local was another important theme that emerged. Campaigns geared at encouraging residents and businesses to buy local, from retailers to wholesalers to local service providers, was identified as a best practice. In response, our office has launched a concentrated effort to promote Orangeville and encourage local buying practices. These efforts will continue as we move forward. A business resiliency map was also created on our website, and local businesses are able to post information about their status, their operational protocols, and hours of operation for public consumption. Tourism. A number of businesses recognized the impact of COVID on the tourism sector and identified a need to help rebuild these harder hit businesses, particularly in light of growing concerns for consumer spending and confidence. And of course, these concerns are being taken into account as the town's tourism strategy and action plan is developed, and with the goal of presenting it to council later this year. And with an eye to both tourism and shop local efforts, we're also examining possible participation in a smart Main Street monitoring research project. If this program moves forward, we'll be examining platforms that, among other things, can monitor clustering at the street level, track high volume visitation times and visitation to popular events, collect data that can help streamline our marketing efforts and support efficiencies within our local businesses. And finally, we will be looking at best practices in the delivery of virtual job fairs in the new year in an effort to support our employers. And I will also be participating in a scenario planning project with the Workforce Planning Board for the Western region. Given the uncertainties that exist, the goal of this strategic planning exercise will be to identify possible workforce-related scenarios that could unfold in the upcoming 12 to 24 months, and then proactively develop actions to address those challenges. And I'll leave it at that for now, Your Worship, but I'm happy to receive any comments that you may have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Phillips, for all the work that you and your team have been doing for our local business community. Very interesting report. Thank you very much. Councillors, do you have any questions for Ms. Phillips? Councillor Andrews and then Deputy Mayor McIntosh. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Very quickly, Ms. Phillips, thank you. As the Mayor has echoed, I want to again thank the entire team of your department for providing this information. It's incredibly helpful, and I think one of the key words that you ended up echoing in your presentation is the resiliency of our business community. And again, that's the one thing that I really want to applaud. I know that there have been a number of businesses who have had some tough days and tough months, but the resiliency is certainly apparent in our community, and I think that that's something that many of the business owners have rolled up their sleeves. They've had to adapt, they've had to modify, but they've also been able to get through this. Now, I know it's preliminary, and we've yet to see what the outcome of the next few months will end up predicting. But do you have any indication of any of the businesses in the community who may end up finding themselves in a tough spot moving forward? And again, I know it's not to put you on the spot, but just out of curiosity, would you happen to have any of that anecdotal information?
I think our businesses on a whole, Councillor Andrews, are adapting very well. They're making modifications on the fly and as they go, as many of us are. And I'm not at this point foreseeing any significant changes to that. It's going to be a challenging fall. This second wave is going to create challenges for all businesses, but particularly to those retail, arts, entertainment, accommodation, and food sector ventures. They're adapting. We've reached out to Central Counties Tourism in addition to supporting any tourism-related business with PPE purchases. They've also agreed to help offset the cost of any heaters that they have to purchase so that the patios can stay open longer. So we're reaching out to our partners and securing additional funding and support for our entrepreneurs wherever possible. I think the biggest fear is a return to a total shutdown and a return to a phase 1 environment. My impression to date is that is certainly something our Premier is trying hard to avoid. And at this point, it looks like it's going to be dealt with on a regional basis. And that's about as much as I know at this point.
Great. Thank you so much for your comments, and I do agree with the observation that you've made about the Premier. I think he's being incredibly cautious but strategic on how he goes about and making some of the decisions with the healthcare specialists that he has as part of his team, and crossing our fingers that we'll be able to avoid maybe a modified phase 2 here in our community. So I think what we have to do is just remind members of the community and those that may be visiting our community to support our local businesses, to adhere to, of course, the protocols that are in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Deputy Mayor McIntosh.
Thank you, Your Worship. Once again, thank you for the presentation. Very informative. Quick question for you. I have an opportunity most weekends to listen to a radio station from the Kitchener-Waterloo area, and I think every third or fourth commercial is advertising Shop Waterloo or Shop Kitchener. Do we do anything like that for Dufferin County?
Absolutely. In the report that I submitted to council, I gave an overview of some of the shop local and promotional activity that we'd engaged in the last few months. Throughout July and August, we had an ongoing campaign on both local radio stations promoting the buy local opportunity. We also took out a magazine insert in the Toronto Star in the later summer. That's a publication that reaches hundreds of high-income earners in the GTA area, and we were able to advertise on the Jumbotron as well at Dundas Square. We also have taken out a publication in the Globe and Mail magazine. This month, we've relaunched a radio campaign with our local stations, and we are advertising in the upcoming edition of In the Hills magazine. Wherever and whenever opportunities exist, we're taking advantage of that and trying to hit that message home.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Councilors, any other comments or questions? Okay.
Todd?
Yeah, through your worship to Ms. Phillips, I saw, I'm an avid Globe and Mail reader, and on the weekend I saw a really neat write-up about Orangeville, and it was written in such a way I couldn't tell if it was written by something that we had sponsored, or if the writer was just so benevolent that they gave such a nice write-up to Orangeville. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, and if
that is one of we advertised in September, and that publication is geared to GTA area homeowners, and it has a reach of about 600 homes. So that's pretty significant size, though, and we did create that so that it read as an editorial as opposed to an advertisement.
It was very well done. And when you just said 600, I assume you mean 600,000.
I think I do too.
Okay.
It's
600 would be a bad deal. I could probably do that on a Saturday for you, but
you're right.
Yeah.
And that is clarified within the body of the report that I completed as well. My apologies.
Yeah, the deputy mayor things I don't read, but I did read that in the Globe and Mail that day. So.
And you're right. It's a much larger reach than 600.
Yeah, it was well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Just as a final comment through you, Your Worship, I would just like to remind Council that this Thursday, despite the pandemic, we will be moving forward with our Arts and Culture Awards, and we'll be celebrating local artists throughout the community. That event will be held on at 7 o'clock on Thursday evening, and you can view it through the Orangeville Council channel on YouTube. And on Tuesday, October 27th, starting at 8 o'clock in the morning, our office will be delivering a live economic outlook breakfast. This will be the first time that we've delivered the event virtually, but we look forward to delivering an economic forecast in partnership with the TD Bank. Thank you.
Following up on your comments, Ruth, on Wednesday night, Dufferin Board of Trade will also be holding Business Excellence Awards, and some of those businesses you spoke to who have pivoted and into new ways to combat the COVID and to increase their sales in other ways will be rewarded and fed at that event on Wednesday night. It's interesting to have Headwaters and yourself back to back, because there's really some synergy there.
Yeah.
The fact that our medical community and public health community has kept our community safe has helped our businesses. So thank you to the medical community, and thank you, Ruth, for all the work that you are doing to support our businesses.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you again. All right, moving. Oh, Councillor Taylor, you want one more word? Go ahead. You're muted, sir.
Yeah, my apologies. I was merely being friendly to Ms. Phillips and waving goodbye. I apologize, Worship.
All right. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ruth. All the best. Yeah. We're moving on now to item 11.3, and this is a presentation by Andrea Sinclair. This is regarding official plan amendment, I believe, for 71 Fifth Avenue. Ms. Sinclair, are you with us?
I'm here. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, go right ahead.
Great. Good evening, everyone. I'll be pretty brief tonight, and I actually don't have a formal presentation. I had presented a PowerPoint back at the public meeting on July 7th, and I know a number of you were in attendance at that meeting. Just wanted to appear tonight in support of the applications on behalf of our clients, LLRT Holdings Corporation, which is Absolute Insurance, and just really wanted to commend the planning department and the staff for their work through this application. These were submitted sort of post-COVID shutdown, and staff remained completely responsive and helpful throughout the entire process. We work in a lot of municipalities, and it's been a very positive experience in Orangeville. We've read through the staff report and recommendations, and we worked with staff to draft the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment. So we are fully in support of those amendments. They've captured our clients' requirements. And this is really, in my opinion, a good news application. It's a local company that the move to this site is allowing them to not only stay in Orangeville, but to over time expand their current operations, employing more people and potentially leasing out space to others. So I know the staff's presentation is sort of the next item on the agenda, and they'll walk through the specifics, but we're dealing with a site that's got an underutilized vacant building that can be repurposed, and with facade improvements as well. So that's really all I had to say tonight, but I'm happy to stay online and answer any questions. And once again, just in support of the recommendation that's before you tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you for your presentation, and yeah, I recommend that maybe you stay around. There might be some questions after the staff report coming up.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move on to 11.4. We have Allison Shield, Joe Samet, and Troy Brett, members of the Orangeville BIA, and of course the general manager of the BIA, Allison, with us tonight. Is it Joe going to make the presentation tonight, Allison?
Yes, that's correct, Mayor Brown.
Okay.
Joe's with us.
Mr. Samet, go right ahead, sir.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for allowing us the opportunity to have a delegation this evening. I want to first off applaud all of you for all of the good work you've been doing in general, but more importantly through the time of COVID, helping residents and businesses get through this crazy time. So with what I'm hearing this evening, you're all doing a wonderful job, and again, our hat goes off to you. I want to point out the fact that, again, myself as the chair of the BIA, Troy Brett as the vice chair, and Allison Shield as the manager of the BIA, we are here because first and foremost, we believe in public transit. We believe that public transit is very important for the entire community and for our downtown merchants and property owners. So we are absolutely 100% in support of public transit. We are most certainly wanting to also support our downtown business owners and property owners, and we would appeal to town council to reconsider the location that was chosen on Broadway. And a letter was drafted, which I believe is in your agenda package, dated October the 13th, to Mayor Brown and to town council. With your permission, I'd like to read through this letter. It is a 3.5-page letter, so it might take me a little while, but I believe that this letter is very well articulated, and it gets the point across as to what it is and why it is we're trying to voice our concerns as to the location of the transit hub at this time. So may I read this letter through?
Of course, go ahead, sir.
All right, the Orangeville BIA Board of Management respectfully requests council to consider the original transit transfer station designed for the Edelbrock Center as an alternative for a downtown location. This location and attached Triton engineering design was identified as the first choice for the transit transfer station by the past Orangeville Council, and is located just 200 meters away from the original Westdale Mall location suggested in Dillon Consulting's 2016 transit study. It's important on that note just to point out that Allison, along with town staff, had dug into a number of different council meetings, both regionally or county, as well as the town council meetings, and was able to pull up 77 pages of agenda items that talk to this specific location and the interest in such. This location and original design would allow for easier and safer passenger transfers, support active transportation by providing space for secure bike lockups, provide space for covered waiting platforms, public washrooms, close proximity to community services at the Edelbrock Center, and 200 meters away from the Westdale Mall shops, and a quick, and a quick bus ride or walk to the downtown shops and services. This design and location would also be better to accommodate other public transportation currently servicing Orangeville, including Metrolinx, GO Transit, TOK coach lines to Pearson Airport and Union Station, and the new Grey County Transit Service and other future county-wide transit services. This location could also easily accommodate the expansion of Orangeville Transit without causing more congestion in the heritage downtown core. Off-street or side street transit transfer stations are safer and more convenient for riders, and therefore they are much more widely used than Main Street transfer stations. The recently announced federal and provincial infrastructure grants amounting to approximately $2 million is more than sufficient to cover the cost of construction of this future-proof design, including the relocation of the community gardens and orchard, which we all know was expressed as a concern as to the well-being of that facility, and represent an investment in the expansion of Orangeville Transit and the commitment to the Orangeville Sustainable Neighborhood Action Plan and the 2018 Orangeville Economic Development Strategy Update. Underused rail land or public park land located along the transit route offer great alternatives to the Edelbrock location for the community garden and orchards. Orangeville's Sustainable Neighborhood Action Plan states, our goal is to preserve Orangeville's small town appeal while bolstering robust business and tourism opportunities that support a healthy economy. We will do this by further establishing Orangeville's identity through the preservation and expansion of tourism and heritage, enhancing economic resiliency through attraction, expansion, and retention of diverse business industries that in turn provide varied local employment opportunities, and connecting tourists to the town as an urban hub within the county. The transit transfer station in the heritage core does not support these goals and is counter to and detracts from the small town appeal that Orangeville is trying to promote to visitors. In addition, the 2018 Orangeville Economic Development Strategy Update recognized the importance of expanding transit service to and from the GTA, which supports the need for a larger transfer station in the future. It also states that tourism is a significant part of the Orangeville's economic development mandate. Tourism is one of the fastest growing economic sectors. A transit station located in the heritage core does not fit with the strategy update's description of Orangeville's tourism brand as an authentic, historic, artistic, smaller town with interesting retail, food, and festival experiences, a gateway to more rural, recreational, and equestrian and farm to consumer environment. Further, Council's decision to locate the transit terminal in Orangeville's busiest street in the heritage core was based on an understanding that the station would only be used by town buses, but not GO, TOK, nor Grey County buses. If the new station becomes the home or even regular stops for these other bus services, that will have a severe impact on the area. In addition, Council's decision was based on recommendations of the Transit Task Force, a committee that had no representation from either the OBIA or the downtown business community, yet it included representatives from Sustainable Orangeville instead. Instead, the BIA was invited to attend 2 meetings as a delegate with little notice or no chance of board discussion or resolution in advance of these delegations. Attending as a delegate is not the same as participating in ongoing discussions and decision-making. And while the task force consulted the OBIA, the task force was seemingly not aware that the local board of the municipality, the OBIA, represents the business improvement area as a whole, not the individual opinions of the properties or the property owners, or the businesses or the property owners, pardon me. As such, when the BIA Board of Management was asked for its opinion on the Broadway station location, its decision was based on what it believed to be in the best interest of the business improvement area as a whole, and not in the opinion of individual members. Further, the task force made its recommendations for the downtown location based on misconceptions that most businesses would probably like this option. Transit Task Force minutes from January the 6th are cited from January 6, 2020. Assuming transit riders would become downtown customers, but without any data to support the idea, nor any canvassing or engagement of businesses despite assurances. In fact, Dillon Consulting's 2017 Transit Optimization Study update clearly stated the relocation of the transit terminal to the recommended location on Broadway in downtown Orangeville will require the conversion of 11 spaces to accommodate 4 buses. That also is another concern of ours. Again, as we as the BIA, previous boards, as well as our own, are working diligently to make sure that we enhance the parking experience in the downtown core. We're not doing things to detract from that. Businesses in the immediate vicinity of the site should be consulted. However, the town did not consult with any businesses in the area. At council meetings, there was mention of lots of public engagement on this issue, but there was none. These business and property owners deserve the opportunity to comment, as did residents in the area who were also left out of the process. In fact, the businesses in the vicinity are adamantly against having the transfer station in this area. Businesses that are now facing the loss of a minimum of 11 parking spaces and possibly several more as the transit system grows and if when the other public transit services move to their stops to this location. Illegal parking in private parking areas and in transit station areas, accessibility issues for their customers, loitering both inside and outside of their businesses, sanitation issues, exhaust from idling buses, congested sidewalks, increased traffic congestion, and increased noise, all of which could very result in the loss of customers due to the inconvenience and a busier, noisier atmosphere. Of course, there are also the real safety concerns with traffic accidents and jaywalking between Broadway and John and First Streets, as outlined in the attached OPS report that details 175 reported accidents in the John First Street area of Broadway over the past 10 years, along with the OBIA's letter to IBI dated September 21st, 2020. One such traffic incident involved the fire truck hitting the post office in 2012. Of primary concern is the safety of seniors and individuals with mobility issues rushing to cross Broadway, covered in snow and ice in the middle of winter to catch their connecting bus. According to the January 6, 2020 Transit Task Force meeting minutes, Mr. Doug Jones addressed a previous comment about patrons crossing the road and not having enough time. He stated that the issue isn't that there is not enough time. The issue is people just aren't crossing quickly enough. With ice and snow on the street and sidewalks, crossing Broadway on foot in the winter will likely be slower, not quicker. Finally, concerns about the bus exhaust contaminating the food produced at the community gardens and orchards were cited as one of the main reasons why the Edelbrock Center was rejected as the transit terminal location. However, similar concerns about the health of employees and clients of Lighthouse breathing in the exhaust on a daily basis were rejected as a valid argument. There's a little bit more to the letter, but as you can see, there's a lot of thought. There has been a lot of thought. There's been a lot of pushback and resistance to the Broadway location. And we as the BIA, again, representing our membership, our merchants, our property owners, we would appeal again to town council to reconsider this decision, because it's not the information we're getting back. It's not in the best interest of the town. It's not in the best interest of traffic congestion. And most importantly, there are better locations, in our opinion, that should be considered. Ones that have been considered in the past that were perhaps not tabled this time around. So we would just like to say that we'd like to see that happen again if at all possible.
Okay.
I'd welcome any questions if anybody has any.
I'm wondering if we could, we've got about 5 or 6 delegates. Joel, if you wouldn't mind, maybe we can go through and have them make your presentations and then take the questions. If you could remain on the line, if you wouldn't mind.
Certainly.
Okay, next up we've got Mr. Carter, Terry Carter. Mr. Carter, you wish to speak as well, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. It's my privilege to be able to appear once again concerning the matter of the transit transfer station on Broadway. This is my 3rd time. I was here before on May the 11th and May the 25th. And I think before I say anything, I just want to say it's been very good to listen to the delegations, and it emphasizes to me what a great community we have, what a unique community we have, and I'm very proud to be part of it. I've been a proud member of the business community for 40 years on Broadway, and I consider this as my home. I like Broadway. We just finished investing a significant amount of money in the facade of the buildings that we have to fit in to the downtown area. We changed the signs, we changed the lights. We want to be part of the heritage core for Orangeville. So I just wanted to say that as a personal note. I like Orangeville. I like being here, and I like having our business here located in the downtown core. What I wanted to say in support of the comments by Joe and the BIA is that things have changed since I last appeared before council on May the 25th. And I want to talk about the 3 areas that there's been changes to bring it to your attention. First of all, I recommended that be further consideration given to the safety issues and that there be a consultation done in that regard. There was a walkabout back on September the 21st, which I participated in. By my count, I think there were about 25 people that walked around the area with the consultant, all of them raising safety concerns about the Broadway location. And those concerns were reflected in the letter which I sent dated September the 21st and a letter from the BIA dated September the 21st, which was endorsed by 45 signatures of businesses in the area about the safety concerns. Joe has already mentioned some of them, such as jaywalking and the issue dealing with health impact. But I want to point out again about the emergency vehicle issues. And I say it because I saw again a fire engine going through downtown Orangeville this morning at an extremely high speed because it has to. It has to get somewhere, and it's going through the Broadway area. And I literally hold my breath every time that I see those emergency vehicles going through. And we've seen an example of that in the letter which I sent to the consultant about the accident of the fire truck immediately across from my office back 8 years ago. It's a reminder that it can happen. And I also brought up the issue in my letter of September the 21st, issues about concerns about vulnerable individuals. And I just want to read just a couple of paragraphs from that. I said that there would be significant increased risk to the safety of vulnerable persons while they're accessing the businesses and services in the area of the proposed transit transfer station, including the elderly, as well as persons with disabilities, some of whom may have hearing or vision impairments. These businesses include a number of essential services that are commonly used by vulnerable persons, including Orangeville's main post office, a Service Canada office, a church, a bank, a health food store, a soup kitchen, a memorial monument showroom, a retail store, a pizzeria, an MPP office, a job placement agency, a law firm, a paralegal office, a loan company, 2 health clinics, a diagnostic imaging center, a traffic consulting business, a yoga studio, as well as a karate studio that offers programs for children as young as kindergarten age. All of the affected vulnerable individuals will require at one time or another vehicle drop-off and pickup from these businesses and services, including the drop-off and pickup of young children attending programs in the immediate area. The parking spaces to be taken up by the proposed transit transfer station would severely limit the abilities of these vulnerable individuals and their families to access goods and services from these business and services. With the location of the proposed transit transfer station on Broadway eliminating parking on Broadway's busiest street, coupled with the increasing demand for curbside pickup and delivery during the pandemic, the town of Orangeville will be creating a dangerous situation that encourages illegal parking, especially with delivery and courier vehicles servicing the businesses. That will lead to further traffic congestion in the area and potential for increased vehicle and pedestrian accidents. To say, from the standpoint of our law firm, we have couriers coming throughout the day. And they come and they park in the front. And if there's not parking, they're going to double park. They're not going to stop coming. And they're going to impact the traffic area if there are buses which are in the vicinity. So it's a real issue and concern. There's lack of facilities and security in the area as well. There's no bathrooms. There's no proper lighting at night. And so we brought these issues up, and I also sent a letter on September the 29th to the consultant, which I gave you a copy of, which made reference to the report from the Orangeville Police Service indicating that there had been, since 2010 up to the present time, 175 accidents. That's 16.6 accidents a year, 1.4 accidents per month. That's a safety concern, and we need to do better than that. The second area I wanted to just point out is the lack of the consultation. Through the work of the BIA, I had a chance to see the committee reports, and I was surprised to see reference in a report that went to the committee, the Orangeville Transit Task Force Committee, on October the 9th, 2019, and they talked about one of the locations on Broadway was a proposal in front of the post office in Carter's law firm. No one contacted me. No consultation whatsoever. And when the decision was made, it was made at the height of COVID-19 on April the 20th. No one knew. And when the businesses were consulted, as they were with the BIA's report of September the 21st, we had 45 businesses that signed on. And then with the submission that the BIA has given, there are 85 signatures who are encouraging council to locate to the Center Street location.
Mr. Carter, if I could interject, could you try and wrap up your speech here in the next minute or two?
I would be happy to, Worship. Some of the council members may feel that they're needing to support the report from 2017. I would just point out that there are many flaws in the report, some I've spoken to before. One of the pages on the report from Dylan in July of 17 says that the downtown Orangeville location will involve the conversion of up to 16 existing parking spaces, not 11, 16. And it gives a comparison between the two locations, Center Street and downtown Orangeville, and gives higher marks to the downtown Orangeville location. If you do a comparison between the two, which I don't have time to do, you'll see that a number of the conclusions are flawed. The third area is simply the Center Street location is in fact a viable location, and I'm grateful to the work of the BIA in pointing out that the Orangeville Transit Committee back in January the 31st, 2018 supported the Center Street location, and that was moved by Councillor Todd Taylor. The town of Orangeville on March the 5th of 2018 unanimously approved, quote, in principle, the location of the new transit transfer station to the Heddle Rock Center. So my final comment is, this is an opportunity for council to reconsider. You have more facts than you had before. It's not a problem to change direction. It shows good governance. You have more information than you had, and just would encourage you to support the recommendation from the BIA. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Next on our agenda is Mr. Greg Bird. Mr. Bird.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship and council members. My name is Greg Bird, and I am the president of Traffic Hawk Legal Services Professional Corporation, located at 229 Broadway. We've been here since 2013, although my family and I have been here over 20 years, and I've been practicing paralegal law for 32 years. As well as being licensed under the Law Society as a paralegal, I'm also a licensed a private investigator and security person, and I'm also trained and certified in CEPTED, and if you don't know what that is, it's crime prevention through environmental design. And I want to focus my presentation, first of all, I want to say I echo the Orangeville BIA to the ninth degree, as well as Mr. Carter. They brought up excellent points. I want to focus more on the security end of it. I think I've done some research on urban bus planning and design, and it would seem that the essential goal of council and of everyone here, I would imagine, is that to improve the ridership and bring up the ridership. That's usually the goal behind any design of a bus transfer station, is to improve and raise your ridership. And with that in mind, the research shows that the highest concern for riders is safety. That is their number one concern, safety. Both criminal activity in an area and then hazardous slippery surfaces and hazardous locations. So I'd want to talk about that for a second. On Broadway, that 100 meters of Broadway between John Street and First Street, there are 3 alleyways. There's one alleyway between the RBC building and 205 Broadway, which is the Natural Health Clinic. There is one light, it's approximately down the alleyway, it's probably 20 feet down and about 40 feet posted on the RBC building. That is the only light. Prime location for ne'er-do-wells to hang out and perhaps prey upon people. Across the street between from the Orangeville Monuments and the post office, another alley, no lighting whatsoever, dark, dark, dark. If you go out right now, I'm right in my office, Broadway is dark. The businesses, except for maybe 2 or 3, are not open after 5 o'clock. Those lights are dark. It's a dark street after 5, especially as the winter comes along. Also, between the tattoo place, I'm trying to remember what it's called there, but them in the building where the fire truck smashed into, and that alleyway there, again, not a single light, completely dark, completely unsafe for anybody that planned to do things that nobody here would be thinking about. So as far as the criminal activity that goes on there, it's a prime location for that kind of stuff. We know that fortunately we have the Lighthouse, and they service a lot of people with disabilities and with drug issues and mental health issues. And with all due respect, that's a safety concern, whether it's deserved or not, for ridership. And again, if you want to elevate your ridership, that is not a location that you place a transfer station from a criminal aspect, a criminal activity aspect. Now, from the road safety point of view, that police report, I want to remind everybody, the 175 accidents, those are reported accidents, which by a Highway Traffic Act definition means that there was either personal injury involved or damage over $2,000. Those are the reported accidents. There are numbers and numbers of unreported accidents that, because the damage is less than $2,000 or there's no personal injuries, they're not getting reported. As council votes to bring this location up there to Broadway and First Street and John, you're just going to increase that pedestrian traffic. And if you're doing what you want to do, it's by a great number. I mean, otherwise there's no point. It's to increase the ridership. And if you're increasing that pedestrian, then you know those numbers are not going anywhere but up. And as Orangeville grows, and I've seen it grow phenomenally in the last 20 years that I've been here, those collisions, those accidents, those safety concerns are only going to increase. And as my friend from the BIA said, and in the wintertime with the snow and the ice, and then everybody's seen the kids and even adults with their faces, pedestrians with their faces buried in a cellular device with earphones in, they're not hearing those ambulances screaming down Broadway. They're not hearing those emergency services vehicles, those fire trucks.
Mr. Burke, should I ask you to wrap up in about a minute or so, sir?
Yes, sure. I think I'm getting my point across. From a strictly safety point of view, I don't know that council ever considered that. In fact, I think I watched the last council meeting, and I think it was Mr. Andrews who seemed to be astonished that you hadn't done a safety consultation on the location. And you voted on this without that. I don't understand. And from a legal aspect, the liabilities, if that were to be set up without that safety, it's phenomenal. I mean, I'm a taxpayer in Orangeville. I've been here, and our taxes are high enough. The last thing we need are, tons and tons now of lawsuits because we didn't do our due diligence with respect to safety at this location. So subject to any questions, Your Worship, I think that pretty much sums up what I'd like to say.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Thank you, Mr. Burke. Next up, we have Mike Beattie. Beattie, you could try and keep your talk to 5 minutes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Worship, and also thank you to members of council. Mr. Bird and Mr. Carter and Mr. Samet have pretty well resonated most of my concerns. One thing that I would like to add is just because they've taken most of the things away that I was going to say is just the mandate of the Transit Task Force. And as a restaurant owner, my family owns both the Tap House on Mill Street and Mill Creek Pub on Mill Street. Part of the mandate was to help out with with the Uber concerns or Uber bringing more Uber and taxi and some of those concerns as well. And it seems to me that the Edelbrock location for the transit hub alleviates not only the traffic coming into Broadway, because again, we do live in a commuter town, and most of the people that are coming to downtown are driving in cars. So having that section between First Street and John Street is going to increase congestion, having the buses come through there. But also, if everything is able to move into a better location, such as the Edelbrock location, it opens up multiple different avenues for different transit, whether it's the GO buses coming in, or the Grey Line coming in, or exploring the Dufferin County transit. It kind of checks all the boxes for me. And if we were to bring in more of a system where Uber can come in, or bulking our taxi, however that works, it would mean to me that it checks all the boxes, and it gets everything that the mandate for the transit committee is supposed to be there, instead of just it seems to me like we're forcing this just to get one of those mandates checked off. Anyways, that's about as much as I have to say. Like I said, everybody else kind of took away all my thunder. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Next up, we have Shane McDonald. Mr. McDonald. Mr. McDonald, are you with us? Okay, moving on to the next delegate, Jessica Hughes. Jessica, are you with us?
I am.
Thank you.
I've been listening to everyone's points, and I agree with Mike. Most of my points have been very well covered by the delegates that have come forward this evening. I am a current resident on Broadway, and I've been lucky enough to be employed on Broadway in the past year. So I have spent most of my past year living on the corner of First and Broadway. And a lot of the concerns that I've heard echoed with regards to young children. I have 2 young children myself, and I won't lie, I left Toronto because I didn't want my children to be bombarded with a lot of the pedestrian and transit interactions that I saw, amount of drivers that would get upset with transit buses, would kind of do that fun little deking around the bus to save a second, and unfortunately end up hurting someone. It's something that I'd hoped I'd left behind. And I'm a little bit startled to come to Orangeville, where I was raised. I've been here with my family for over 20 years, to find out that a transit hub is being plunked on my front doorstep. I'm concerned about the exhaust that's going to be released into my immediate neighborhood. My young son has lung issues, and that's not something I thought I'd have to be concerned about moving to Orangeville. And I have a lot of concerns about the emergency vehicles that are already using Broadway, which not ideal. I think a 1 lane both ways is not really great for emergency vehicles, but hey, it's our main thoroughway, is what we need to do. But I also live on a laneway, which a lot of drivers in Orangeville tend to use as a means to escape the traffic on Broadway, and it's only going to get worse once we put a transit system on that corner. I had a whole bunch of notes here, and most of them I've crossed out because Carter's Law Firm, Mike Beattie, I've heard all of you representing these points, but most of my main concerns have been covered by what I've been hearing. I'm concerned about curbside pickups for the business that I currently work for. I'm concerned about my kids' safety with increased traffic. I mean, 4 buses doesn't seem like much, but we are hoping to do better. We are hoping to expand, and hopefully those 4 buses will become so much more. It would be lovely to see, but to have it on our front doorstep and to already be losing our limited parking, I would really strongly urge council to consider a different location. I know the Edelbrook Center is the one location that everyone's kind of hammering on a little bit because it's the one that most of us as residents have heard about. But Orangeville does have a number of properties I think that would be so much better suited to having not only a transit hub that works for now, but a transit hub that we can build into something that's so much better. We can, as of right now, I only know a couple main bus stations that I personally utilize, but I know that we are expanding, we are becoming so much more, and more buses are coming in. And I just don't think that Broadway offers the capability for us to be able to expand and make better without taking away from the fantastic community that we've built here on Broadway. So I really only wanted to offer my perspective as a resident. I've been here for a long time and I truly love this town and I love what we've built. I just want it to keep being better. I don't want to see us step back. So that's all I wanted to raise. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica, for your words. That's very nice. Thank you. So I'm just going to call upon Shane McDonald one more time. Shane, if you're on the telephone, you can press #6 to unmute. Are you with us, Shane?
Star 6.
I'm sorry, *6. My apologies. *6. Okay, looks like Mr. McDonald's not with us. Last delegate to talk about transit transfer terminal is Sylvia Bradley. Ms. Bradley, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the ability to speak to council once again on this subject, which has been debated for many years in many regards. I'm here to speak to preserving the garden and orchard, which has been a success story for the town of Orangeville for the last 8 years. It's an award-winning garden, and it provides a tremendous amenity to our town. I didn't actually hear very much new tonight from all the other delegates. Most of the information that was presented has been presented to council, so I'm not really sure that there's anything new for council to consider at this point. The downtown location is usually, I would say the majority of towns and cities have their depots or their transfer stations downtown because the businesses downtown want the foot traffic. So having the foot traffic over at the garden just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. The Edelbrook Center, as a reminder to those who may not realize, is owned by the county. So for the town to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars onto county property, and the county may have requirements for the land in the future. So again, that's just something to as a reminder. It's also next to a railroad tracks, an active rail line, which will have a tremendous effect on the schedule. And it is also a floodplain zone. So it's not ideal as most people think it is. The speaker that spoke about the darkness on Broadway, Broadway is pretty well lit, and I'm sure they can put more lights up if that's required. But to be dropped off at night over at the garden where there's nothing around other than the beer store, which is a distance away. If you're talking about dark, take a look at dark over there. I also did not appreciate the comment regarding the lighthouse. I think that was a poor characterization of the clientele there. The accident numbers are in isolation. They really don't mean anything unless you have other junctions that could be compared upon. I don't know if 1.4 accidents per month is an average or below average or above average because nothing else was presented. When looking at a long-term depot, and I've talked about this before, so this is nothing new either, the fire hall, depending on what council decides to do with the fire hall, could be the ideal long-term solution for a bus depot or a bus transfer station. So I wanted to only be brief because, again, we've discussed this at length for many years, and so I just needed to present a bit of a balance for council tonight because it was all one-sided, and I encourage council to keep the transfer station as has been voted on Broadway. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Bradley. Okay, councillors, Deputy Mayor McIntosh wishes to speak, and then Councillor Taylor. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Back in, I believe it was early April, when I voted to support the Broadway location, a number of items have come up since. Obviously, COVID-19 has affected things. Safety has been raised. Some new info has come to light about locations that we can actually use. One of the bigger things too is the future expansion, and I know Mr. Samet talked about that. That wasn't really talked about in our committee meetings, was the expansion. We're currently working with Dufferin County at the present time to actually get the county bus system going as well. I think the committee, honestly, and I sat on the committee, so I take full blame for this, we could have done a better job. We absolutely could have. At this time, I would be prepared to change my vote on what I voted back in April, unless council has some other ideas, but at this time I would be willing to change my vote. Thank you.
Okay, let's have Mr. Taylor. Go ahead, sir. I think you're muted. You're muted, Todd. And then Councilor Pete.
Thank you. It's too bad because what I just said was brilliant, but we'll get through. Yeah, thank you, everyone. I appreciate everyone's comments tonight. I think it's so interesting. You know, we're halfway through a term, and you know, it's new. It's new to be sitting in an elected position and making decisions and trying to do what's best for your town. And I would just implore everyone that's presented here tonight, and I'm sure that you're frustrated and wondering and questioning the judgment of different folks that are here, and probably myself included. But there's no one on that transit committee that wanted to do anything better than anything more than and make things better for our town. And that's truly why you run for council, and that's why you're on a transit committee, and that's why you serve in communities to try and make things better for the town. So that out of the way, whether I agree with what's going on here tonight or not, there's some things that frustrate me and things that upset me. The reality is I don't agree with the deputy mayor in terms of the committee could have done a better job. There are things that have come to light since we were all together initially. And the deputy mayor is right about the expansion of outside buses. That wasn't brought up in the transit committee meetings, and it wasn't brought up because it wasn't known. It wasn't known information at that time. It's not that the committee could have done a better job. I think the committee and the people that were on that and part of it were very diligent. They were caring community members who wanted to make a difference, and they should be respected as such. In terms of what we would do, I'm not willing to change my vote tonight. However, from what I understand, there is new information regarding the Otterbrock Center, and there is information that we're waiting on from the safety committee. So my suggestion this evening is that we put aside, excuse me, Your Worship, did you want to say something?
You just froze on my screen. I just thought I filled in the word for you there. Sorry. Right.
Okay. Yeah. My suggestion is that we not make a decision tonight on anything because we don't have the information that we require. What we would do is wait on some information from the county council, which the deputy mayor and the mayor sit on. And we'd also wait for that report that we paid $10,000 for. It would be ridiculous to make a change of anything at this point until we've heard that report come through. So my respectful submission tonight is to the BIA and to the members of OSAT, who this is important to, is that we simply hold and we wait for a period of time. And I think, Your Worship, you've got a better idea of when those dates would be. And then we come back. And I don't think we're that far away, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're kind of 4 to 6 weeks away from having a decision. And at that point in time, we'll make a decision. And in the meantime, Mr. Zamet, Mr. Bird, Mr. Beatty, Mr. Carter, I love having coffee. I'd be happy to meet with anyone and have discussions and be open to another vision. And to Mr. Peters and to Ms. Bradley, the same. I want what's best for this town in terms of transit. This has been a 6 or 7 year journey. We need to make a decision. And at some point, someone's not going to be happy with it. But if it means that we get all the facts, then I'm in favor of it. And I think that's what we should do tonight.
Thanks, Councillor Taylor. I think you and I had a chat earlier. I did speak with the town clerk and the CAO as well. And I think what I'd like to put out in front of council now is a resolution to put on hold the downtown transfer hub until November 23rd, a council meeting, at which time the safety study that has been commissioned by the council will be presented. And I would like to add that we direct town staff to present a report on November 23rd on the Edelbrock proposal. And that would be following discussions with county council and any other stakeholders that might be involved in that particular location. And if and I think that makes the most sense to freeze things until November 23rd and gather all of the information so that council can make the right decision at that time. So, Councillor Andrews, and then we'll let Mr. Peters, Councillor Peters, and I see Mr. Salmon wishes to speak as well. Go ahead, Mr. Andrews.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I would like to first and foremost thank and with the utmost respect to those part of the Transit Committee and their willingness to, at least as has been echoed by the chair of that particular group, let's wait for the information. And I appreciate, I'd be willing to support your motion, if it is a motion, Your Worship, regarding this. I appreciate the delegations that have spoken tonight. Thank you, Mr. Bird, for referencing my comments about the safety study, and I think that that's what council is waiting for us to have that information, the new information that Mr. Taylor, Councillor Taylor, has identified. I think it's imperative for us to make the decision that will be made at that time. I truly want to do what is best for our community, as all of us do. That's why we are in the seats that we are in. We've been elected in the roles and the capacities, and we are doing the best on the information that we have, and such as new information has been provided to us, and further information will be as for that safety study. I look forward to receiving that information on the 23rd. So again, Your Worship, I will support your recommendation.
Just to refresh protocol, since I did not vote at the time for the decision, really one of the 5 who did vote should be making that recommendation to put things on hold until 23rd. So I'll leave that to either Deputy Mayor or Mr. Taylor to make that motion, which we then can vote on. Councillor Peters, go right ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just keep it brief. Thank you very much to all the delegates. We have had a lot of people reach out to us. I understand some perspectives by the business community and others. That said, there's been a lot of work done on this, and pending disastrous results from the safety study, I still support the downtown location for a variety of reasons that I've stated before and I won't get into here. But one thing I would just caution the delegates and the people that have reached out, even if the transfer terminal is not located at First and Broadway, buses will still be passing through that corridor. And in fact, now they won't be turning out of the lanes. They won't have a place to stop except in the middle of the roadway. So in terms of safety and accidents and emergency access, emergency vehicles, getting the bus out of that lane for a short period of time, I think has to be considered when we talk about those aspects. So, and when it comes to the exhaust, when we talk about the transportation money that we have available, I'd rather spend less on the transfer hub itself and more on electric buses or other ways to optimize the route and reduce emissions and increase ridership. And I wholly believe that the transit ridership, is a good thing for the downtown. And if the transit system works successfully, that takes people out of their cars and actually reduces the need for parking in the downtown. So, I can appreciate that we're waiting for the safety study, but in terms of the Edelbrock position, I think we've exhausted those discussions, and I'd like to see us proceed as we have.
Okay. Mr. Samet wanted to speak, and then I see Councillor Taylor's got his hand up. Go ahead, Joe.
Just a very few quick words. First of all, thank you again for the opportunity to speak. And I want to echo again what was said earlier. We as the BIA most certainly support public transit. Downtown, surrounding areas, we want people to come downtown. We want people to have access to the amenities that this beautiful town has to offer. We appreciate you reconsidering this, just again, tabling it perhaps for further discussion until additional information is provided. We want to support transit any which way we can. I promise you that. We just want to make sure that it goes through its due course. And if there is new information that people need to be aware of, then let's chat about it. And the BIA is more than happy to help in any way we can. So thank you very much.
Okay. Councillor Taylor, and then I see Mr. Carter's got his hand up. Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I feel like I do this a fair bit, but Councillor Peters does resonate with me. At this point, I have done 6 years of research and 6 years of meetings, and it would be difficult for me at this point to vote in any other way than the downtown location. I just want to be clear what I'm saying, and that is there is new information that's out there. Before I make any decision, I would want to make sure I hear that, and that's what we're doing. And I think there's confusion about Edelbrock and what the new information is. And candidly, I was not aware of the new information until it was brought forth to me by Mayor Brown. And I'm wondering, Mayor Brown, it might be good for you to describe, and you could do it better than I think I could, because it's new to me, but I don't think people really understand what we're saying, because the initial piece about the Edelbrock Center, I've said no to. This is different, is what you're describing. And maybe you could just give a little bit of background to what that is, so it's not a mystery to people.
Well, just to go back to early 2018, Councillor Taylor, decision of the previous transit committee was to recommend a roadway which would traverse the Edelbrock property from Dawson to Center, and would include a transfer station, a bus shelter, a sidewalk over to the Edelbrock Center, and that particular proposal got to the point of an engineering firm designing it and costing it. So it was very seriously considered by the previous transit task force, and as was mentioned earlier, Councillor Taylor, it was your motion, I believe, at that meeting that the transit task force from early 2018 recommended that. It was shot down at Dufferin County Council in a vote of 16 to 15. Unfortunately, the members of Orangeville Council who sat on that committee voted in opposition to each other. Otherwise, this would have been a fait accompli, and we'd probably be sitting with a transit hub at Edelbrock. As it stands right now, we have a new Dufferin County Council. We have support from other members of Dufferin County Council, particularly on the intermunicipal transit idea, of which there are, some existing transit happening right now from Grey County and the top coach lines, and of course Metrolinx. And that larger, more robust location, seems to make sense. So, the other information that we know is that work from home is something that is become the norm with respect to government work. So both the town of Orangeville and the county of Dufferin are very unlikely to require additional office space for the very long term. So any thought of expanding the Edelbrock building is likely not in play. In terms of Ms. Bradley's concern about the garden, my belief is the garden should stay where it is, and we should look for an additional community garden in a location on parkland elsewhere in town. There is no science to suggest that the community garden will be negatively affected by the addition of the buses, as was stated months ago in a council meeting. 4,000 cars a day pass that community garden on Center Street, and I believe 7,000 cars a day travel on Dawson. So, you know, the additional bus emissions would be minor compared to the other traffic in that area. So with all of that together, knowing that it's likely that Dufferin County Council would approve such a request from the town of Orangeville, it opens up the Edelbrock Center location again. And as much as I agree that the transit buses coming onto Broadway are going to bring some of our residents to the downtown core, that would not change. The bus routes will still travel on Broadway, and anybody wishing to shop in the downtown core will be getting there in a much more efficient way with the hub moved over to where the initial transit optimization study suggested it should be located, which was more or less a geographical center and allowing for equidistance routes in Orangeville. So that's the recap. I think I believe we should be postponing this until the 23rd. Let's hear the safety study, and let's have town staff recap Edelbrock one more time for council to consider. So with that being said, okay, Mr. Carter, you can weigh in, and then Mr. Jones, you wish to weigh in as well? Okay, Mr. Carter, go right ahead.
I'll be very brief. Two suggestions. Why not approach the county to see whether there's an appetite by the county of Dufferin Council to support the Edelbrock Center location. So that's number one. Number two, the safety report, which we're waiting for, is limited in its scope. What I had suggested at the end of May was to have a safety study to determine the safety considerations of having the transfer location on Broadway. That is not what's contained within the mandate letter that was sent out. It is to look at safety issues on the assumption that the location will be on Broadway. They do not have the ability to say it's a bad location. You're not going to get the breadth of report that I had suggested back in May the 25th. So please take that into account when you get the report. I'm not likely to come back again. I think I said after 3 times all I can say. This is an opportunity for council to, I'm speechless. You have people that live and work on Broadway. They're concerned, terribly concerned. Please don't ignore those valid concerns. Take a look at the Center Street location, and if the county of Dufferin is open towards it, it could be a win-win. And we can take care of the folks with the community gardens that they need to have their interests looked at as well. We can have a win-win in this community of ours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just seeking a little bit of clarity on the motion, if I could. The motion was to put on hold the downtown transfer point. Currently, in parallel with the work that we are doing on the safety study, staff is also designing the 4-route system with the assumption that the downtown transfer point will be the hub, as it were. There is information that is currently online, and a virtual public meeting is to be held on Wednesday. Now, while changing the transfer point to a location like potentially the Edelbrock property would change the routes, it wouldn't render all of this information useless. But I want to get clarity from council as to whether we should immediately cease that work and cancel this virtual public meeting, or whether we should proceed with it. Secondly, with respect to the Edelbrock property, you're quite correct with respect to your history. It was the county who ultimately made the decision to stop us moving forward with what would be the transit way between Centre and Dawson. And then the transit committee and staff at the time started to seek other alternatives. With respect to providing information back to council with respect to the Edelbrock property, is it your intent to bring this forward to county council, or are you looking for staff to speak to people at the county about this?
I think it would be good for town staff to speak to county staff, but I will be raising the issue at the next county council meeting. And I believe I have the support of the deputy mayor and others on county council for that location.
And there was the first question with respect to the virtual public meeting on the 21st.
Well, again, we'll have councillors comment, but from my perspective, I would not stop that virtual meeting. I think we should engage the public. I think you can start off the meeting by letting them know that there is some concern and we are working through that issue. But if councillors have a different view, then please weigh in. Councillor Taylor.
I think through you, Your Worship, to Mr. Jones, I think we've waited quite some time. I feel like that Wednesday meeting should be canceled, Mr. Jones. I think that we should hold the work on the routes so that you and your staff aren't working on things while we're waiting for further judgment, would be my take. And then just one last piece. You know, Mr. Carter, you speak about being speechless. You know, be a bit respectful of council. We're listening to you. We've spent our time here tonight. We're going to move this forward, but at some point a decision will be made, and it will be downtown. It'll be nothing. We mothball the fleet, or potentially we have an option here, but a decision will be made.
Okay.
Can I just respond? You've already mentioned, you've already said what your decision is going to be. My point is, if you're going to wait, listen, and learn through the process before making a final judgment. That's all. We need to ensure, as the mayor has said and others have said, and you've said, to get the information that is required and then announce your decision.
And that will be done.
Thank you.
Councilor, give your hand up, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick point of correction. You noted that the previous study identified the Edelbrock Center as the ideal, not ideal, I suppose, the proposed location, but based on the scoring matrix, actually the downtown location did score the highest. And just another piece, regardless of the community gardens, which I obviously am passionate about as well, I just think the environmental design of essentially building an entire street between Center and Dawson in a floodplain in an area that's been heavily worked on through restorative tree planting and nut and fruit trees. I just think it's a disaster environmentally. So that's why I think the Edelbrock piece is closed in my mind.
Okay. Well, I think making the right decision for the long term for the transit system is what we need to think about. And as far as a disaster, I think that's strongly worded, and we'll have to see what staff comes back with as a report. But if there's any other comments, Councilor Taylor, go ahead.
Your just to make sure I get it, we don't have a motion on the floor at this time, right?
That's right.
No. So I don't think that there's a need for, and my take on this is, I don't think there's a need for the deputy mayor to change his vote tonight. I just think there's a motion, and I'm happy to make the motion, and that is that we delay, any decisions until the safety committee, the safety consultant report is received, and we have the information back from county council and from Mr. Jones and his team regarding the extra information on the Edelbrock Center, and that's it. So there's no decision about yes, no, maybe. It's just there's a decision for more information.
Deputy Mayor McIntosh.
Yeah, I would second that.
Okay. All right, council. Any further comments before we call the vote?
Your Worship.
I'm sorry. Is that Councilor Sherwood?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I can't see you there. I'm sorry.
So now that the motion has been put on the floor to not necessarily reconsider it, but the motion on the floor is that we are not going forward at this time with the Broadway location. Am I correct?
No, any work by the town is to be suspended until November 23rd. That's what my interpretation. Councillor Taylor, is that correct? Is that what your wish was?
That's correct. No one has, unless the deputy mayor would like to change his mind, but no one has made a vote who voted for it to move out of the downtown location. We haven't made that as a proclamation. What we are doing is we're delaying any kind of movement forward until we have the information on the safety and on this new information that the mayor has brought forth regarding Edelbrock.
So if I may speak on this, if I could get clarification from the clerk that the point of order allows me to do so based on the motion on the floor.
Go ahead. Councillor?
Madam Clerk, I'm asking.
You're looking for a point of order?
If I'm able to speak on this now that the motion's on the floor.
Yes, you are.
I am?
He's nodding, yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So now that this new information's been received regarding a previous task force recommendation to locate to the Edelbrock Center with a drive-through from Dawson Road to Center Street, I'm really hopeful that council staff and the consultant will revisit this. We'll wait and see, like you say, once we get all this safety information back and the comments from the county. There's new council members that are on county council, so they need an opportunity to review this as well. There have been many great points expressed by the multiple correspondents from the BIA, Mr. Carter, all our delegates, along with 29 pieces of correspondence that has been indicated on tonight's agenda in support of having the location on Broadway reconsidered. The community garden is an issue that had concerned me with respect to locating it where it was going to be fronted onto Center Street. But, and I don't want to downplay the operation of the garden, but the garden is run for 4 to 5 months a year compared to a transit hub that's going to be run for all year. And it's almost made it sound like this council chose plants over the safety of people. That may seem very harsh, but I truly feel that the community garden can still remain where it is without any health risks. I haven't seen anything proven to say that they will be health risks, but I do feel that there's safety risks for the Broadway location. I also feel that we can have a second community garden if we need to relocate some of those fruit and nut trees. This town, I'm sure, has over 200 pieces of land, and surely there has to be somewhere in the town that we can gift to relocate another community garden. The recent announcement of the funding would help assist in getting the community garden relocated or protected where its current location is from the hub. If we could do some kind of screening like we're doing for COVID. You know, that's just a thought, but that's something I would like, you know, hopefully staff to think about as well. As a member on the BIA board, we felt that a representative should have been included on that original task force. Since a member of Sustainable Orangeville was on that task force, I think it would have only been fair to include a vital member to discuss the concerns of the board and all its members. Councillor Taylor, I see your hand up, but I'd like to finish if I could, please. The RFQ directed the consultant contact the businesses in the proposed area. And speaking with the BIA members, no one had been consulted on this proposal. It was the responsibility of our staff and or our consultant to send notification to all those businesses. Even though staff contacted the BIA with the establishment of the task force and its recommendation of the notice, it wasn't the responsibility of the BIA to send out notification to specific businesses affected, because the BIA board represents the complete BIA neighborhood and area. This new auction must be looked at and discussed, and I really hope that my fellow councillors will take all of this new information into consideration. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Councillor Taylor, one more shot and then let's vote on this. Go ahead.
Your worship, every time that we put out a committee, it goes on the community page and community people apply. So anyone could have applied. BIA members, OSAP members, whatever. So it's just not fair to say that the BIA was excluded. I've talked with Chair Zamet about my disappointment with the BIA, saying that they weren't informed. And could we have done a better job? Maybe, but we did inform the BIA. We were at those board meetings. So whatever, spilt milk, but frustration probably running over here, but I just don't agree with the assessment that was just given.
Okay, fine. So we have a motion on the floor by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Deputy Mayor McIntosh, to freeze the work that the town staff is doing on the downtown hub, but direct them to investigate the Edelbrock Center. And I had also stated that during this roughly 30 days that we will investigate through County Council the appetite for permission to construct that roadway and transit hub at the Edelbrock Center. So that is where we stand right now. I'd like to call a vote. So can we say all in favor of the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Councillor Peters is the only one opposed. Madam Clerk. Okay, I also wanted to remember here to receive the correspondence from the BIA and Mr. Carter. I also want to receive and acknowledge the correspondence of many downtown business owners. We, on our council agenda, items 13.5 through 13.33 were also submitted, and I want to acknowledge all of those individuals who sent in those items, so thank you very much. Okay, let's move along now. We have a staff report on 71 Fifth Avenue. Is that Mr. Ward going to deliver that?
Your worship, I think you missed Mr. Jones, if I may. He was trying to interject.
Oh, Mr. Jones, I apologize. Go right ahead, sir.
Sorry, Your Worship, but just for clarity, when I was speaking about the virtual public meeting, initially I believe that you indicated it should proceed. Councillor Taylor indicated that it shouldn't. I suspect that since it was his motion that we should be cancelling the virtual public meeting. Is that the wish of council at this time?
That was his motion, so yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, 71 Fifth Avenue, is there a staff member that's going to talk to about this or not? Jones?
Thank you, Your Worship. I can speak to the matter briefly. The owner at 71 Fifth Avenue submitted applications to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw in order to permit the conversion of the existing institutional building into an office. The staff report before you today recommends approval of the applications, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Well, this is as stated by the representative of the owners. This sounds like a win-win here. So it's a good development, going to create some employment area. Councillors, do you have any questions? Councillor Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not a question, rather a comment. In general, very pleased with the application. It's good to see new, business opportunities and building retrofits, that kind of thing. I was a little disappointed that the application remains with the parking addition. I expressed concerns at the public meeting. It seems those were not persuasive enough, which is fine. But I think between the stormwater management issues and the hardscape issues and the fact that there's a giant parking lot across the street, and as well that parking number on a per square foot basis is very high. In Orangeville and in many other sort of urban centers. So that piece to me, I think we had the opportunity here to have a little bit more specific discussion about parking. and perhaps correct the bylaw, which is very, very forgiving at the moment. So that, I guess those are my comments. I prefer to see that parking looked at a little more closely, essentially almost doubling the spots and leaving very little area that's not developed on that site is a disappointment.
Very good. Okay. Any other councillors wish to comment? Okay. Can we have a motion to receive this this report? Councillor Taylor, second by Councillor Andrews. All in favor? Opposed? Opposed?
No question. Sorry.
Okay, Councillor Peters.
So I just want to clarify the motion. Your motion was to receive, but the motion includes the full context of the approval of the bylaw amendment and everything, right?
Yes. And that the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment be approved. That's right. That's
Okay,
correct.
I wanted to be clear when you had only said received, so.
My apologies. You're correct. So councillors, as it reads here on our agenda, is to receive and to approve this official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. Councillor Taylor, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Councillor Peters is opposed. Madam Clerk, thank you. Moving on to 12.2, COVID-19 Business Impact Study Survey. Is anybody going to speak to this, town staff, or not? Mr. Brennan?
Your Worship, this is actually the presentation that Ms. Phillips gave earlier tonight. Covers the materials put forward.
Very. We have a motion to receive that report. Councillor Peters, second by Councillor Andrews. All in favor?
Yes.
Good. Moving on to new business in Orangeville, May 1st to September 30th. Does Ms. Phillips want to speak to this, or is she available?
No, Your Worship, I'll speak to it. It's a matter just for council's information, is bringing up to date on what's happening in the community in terms of business growth, and the report is available in the attachment.
Okay, very good. May we have a motion to receive this report, please? Councillor Andrews, second by Deputy Mayor McIntosh. All in favor? Thank you. 12.4, Santa Claus Parade Alternative. I know, Mr. Osmond, you prepared this. Would you like to speak to this, sir?
Thank you, Your Worship. I won't speak in any length to it. I didn't prepare it. Certainly work with our staff, our manager of recreation events, and I got to give her full kudos for putting together this report in very short order. And I also wanted to commend her for the collaboration with various internal and external parties that were involved in the process. It took a bit of work in terms of trying to get everything put together for council to review. She is here. She's been waiting and listening, and I'm going to ask her to speak to it shortly. But really, when it comes down to a few things, at the end of the day, we're making a recommendation to go with an alternative. Before I do that, I'd like for Sharon Doherty, if she would speak to briefly to the report, give you an overview on where things are in terms of the alternative versus a parade. Thank you.
Welcome, Sharon. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Brown and members of council. Thank you, Ray. Staff have taken considerable time to review an alternative to a Santa Claus parade. The first piece of work that we looked at was reaching out to the public health unit to address if we could actually do a traditional Santa Claus parade or an alternative to a Santa Claus parade, which was discussed at the council meeting back in, I guess it was late September, based on council's request. The health department very quickly deemed that that was not a good idea, that they thought and felt that congregating people in any form of fashion of a parade was not advisable at this point in time. So as Ray said, we've reached out to various community partners, including the BIA. We did reach out to the King Club as well to get some input from them on their past experiences with the parade and what they could possibly contribute to this year, as well as the Optimist Club, and then various community or Town of Orangeville departments to address how we could do this. The concept that we've come up with is a holiday lighting extravaganza. And working with the BIA, focusing on actually Ms. Phillips' report earlier this evening when we're looking at tourism, this lends itself very well to that. Creating lighting extravaganzas across the town, the downtown core, Town Hall, Alexandra Park, the Mill Street branch of the Orangeville Public Library, and both our Tony Rose and Alder Street recreation centers. In doing that, we would also work with our IT department to map out through our GIS applications a self-guided tour. And in addition to that, we would allow the community residents to apply to have their own homes decorated and added to the map. As well, I've reached out to our Fire Chief Ron Morden, and he and his team are willing to also do a Santa around town, where we would visit various neighborhoods using our vintage fire truck, and kind of like the ice cream truck concept I've put in the report there, where you never know when Santa's going to appear in your neighborhood on a fire truck. In speaking with the King Club, they actually used to do this event as a fundraiser, I believe, for cystic fibrosis. And when I spoke to them, they were thrilled at the concept of reviving that portion of something they used to do. So really, in a nutshell, that's what we're looking at, a lighting extravaganza. In terms of the budget that we are looking at, fortunately, lighting does not come cheap. Mr. Brennan and Mr. Osmond and I have met to discuss what does $20,000 look like. It looks like $20,000 of lights. That's what we concluded. The BIA has stepped up. And that's where our discussion started with Allison Scheel. Allison initially approached the board of directors with the BIA to secure some funding, and it was actually the BIA that increased their funding to $20,000, and we'd like to be able to match that. The Orangeville Hydro is also on board to assist ourselves along with our public works staff, our park staff, and our Optimist Club volunteers to assist us in lighting up all these various locations around town.
Very good. That's excellent. Much like our businesses, it looks like town staff has pivoted in the midst of COVID to come up with some very unique and creative solutions. And I just wanted to share with you, I had a conversation about a week ago with Pastor Roger Barrow of the Salvation Army, and he wanted to do just exactly what you proposed. So he would be very much open to using the Salvation Army property, which has got some great exposure on Riddell and Town Line for one of the locations. Right. Councillor Sherwood, and then Councillor Andrews, go right ahead.
Yes, Your Worship. I want to thank staff very much for all your hard work in trying to bring forward the vision of a drive-through or traditional parade, and I do respect the comments from the Wellington Dufferin Health Unit. It's very important that we keep our citizens and our visitors safe. So I'm in full support of this new vision. I really like it. I'm glad you mentioned about the BIA. We have just at the board just recently approved lighting that will be in all three of the medians, and there's the $20,000 gone kaput. So I can tell you, yes, lighting is expensive, but it is going to look phenomenal. So to add to that at different areas of the town would be fabulous. But of course, my biggest thing was that, yes, I'm so happy to hear that Santa Claus will be able to come to town, because that is something that I think our children and our families would love to be able to stand at their windows and wave to Santa and know that he will be visiting them on for Christmas morning. Thank you very much. And one more quick thing. I believe we already had allocated $6,000 to the Kin Club. So in actual fact, we're just asking for an additional $14,000. Am I correct then that we've already kind of had put that money aside anyway? Mm-hmm. Correct? Was it $6,000, I believe?
Madam Treasurer, do you want to weigh in on this at all? Do you have that number?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Your Worship to Councillor Sherwood. I can definitely double check and get back to you, but yeah, it seems like, yes, we did in the past.
Okay,
So I guess what we're really doing is just asking for an additional $14,000 to come out of our reserve then?
That would be correct.
But who's got the 6,000 right now? Has the Kin Club already got the money, or?
In the last report that the treasurer gave us, that it was returned. It was stated that it was returned.
That's correct.
Well, I echo Councillor Sherwood. The idea of the fire department and Santa Claus going from neighborhood to neighborhood is fantastic. So thank you for that. Councillor Andrews, go right ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. And as my fellow Councillor Sherwood put this on the table a few weeks ago, she put the challenge to town staff, and Ms. Doherty, thank you. You certainly have come back to council with a brilliant idea. And I know that we've had some previous discussion, and I think whatever magic you were able to pull out of whatever bag it was, you have done yourself proud. I think that, in these times, we have to come up with something that is going to end up bringing our community together in a different way. And I can just imagine the number of residents who are going to hopefully put their names in for having their house or their location also showcased as part of the GIS tour. But having Santa Claus through the Kins Club in the antique fire truck is also a tremendous idea. It just will end up bringing the morale up at a time when there's still uncertainty ahead. We're not even sure if public health is going to allow trick-or-treating to take place at this point. That's a completely different matter, but I think that it is one that is going to bring our community together in a different way. But thank you for the report, and the detail is provided.
Any other comments from councillors before we vote on this?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, please.
Yes, go right ahead, Councillor Post, and then Councillor Peters. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. In true COVID-19 style, it looks like we found creativity and innovation amongst a tough time. So thank you to town staff for doing that. That seems to be the theme of 2020. With this going forward, or hopefully going forward, I would ask that maybe this is something we consider for the years to come as well. So perhaps when we're putting together the budget for Parks and Rec budget in the future, this additional $20,000 or even maybe a bit less or more, whatever we think we may need, can be included in the budget going forward. With all of that being said, I would be happy to move to receive the report and to move forward option 1 in the report to approve the holiday lights extravaganza in lieu of the Santa Claus parade and the funding of $14,000 or whatever makes it equal $20,000 from the Parks and Rec reserves.
Very good. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Sherwood wishes to second that. Very good. Councillor Peters, before we vote, go ahead, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for everyone who put this forward. It should be pretty exciting. Just because we don't have a sustainability procurement policy, just want to get my 2 cents in there. I'm assuming, hopefully through the procurement process, Ray and Sharon, we'd be going with LED technology wherever available to minimize the energy costs. Because 20,000 worth of light it's a lot of lights.
Yeah, Your Worship, just to echo that, I know in my meeting with Mr. Brennan last week, we talked about specifically LED lighting, and no lighting comes cheap these days, and there are a lot of other municipalities looking at similar projects. So if council does approve this evening, we'll be purchasing fairly quickly, but yes, absolutely. I've already been working with Public Works and our park staff on LED procurement.
Very good. Mr. Brennan and then Councillor Sherwood. Mr. Brennan.
Your Worship, to you and to Councillor Post, just so that it makes it easier for us in the budgeting process as we're working on the budget now, are you going to make a motion for us to include an additional $20,000 for future years for such projects or such a project? Or are you going to wait until we get into budget deliberations?
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
if you do it tonight.
I'd be happy to add that into my motion if my seconder is amiable to that, and because it's something we can always revisit during the budget if we change our mind there, but I would like to see it added right away. Thank you.
I will definitely second that, Councillor Post.
Do you have another comment, Councillor Sherwood?
I do, Your Worship. Just regarding funding, me always going back to the money's not in the budget. But I am very passionate about this particular thing because it is something very much the community needs. But perhaps, I don't know if Mr. Brennan or perhaps the treasurer can, are we able to take the $14,000 out of any of the COVID relief funds? Considered we're kind of doing this because COVID is making us do that, or is this are we good enough in our recreation reserves to not have to worry about dipping into that particular one? I know it's all in the same bank account, but I just want to know where we can pull it from.
Get on that, sir.
Do you want me to reply to that, Mr. Brennan?
Go ahead.
Yes, please.
Okay, through your worship to Councillor Sherwood. So any COVID-related fund that we have received from provincial government, there are some criteria around it, and I'm not particularly sure that this would qualify. So right now, I would go with the recommendation that's presented to you via the report.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Councillor Peters, go ahead, sir.
Thanks. Just quickly on the budget piece, it won't stop me from supporting the motion. I'd like to see, I guess, where we sit after 20,000. Surely we probably wouldn't have to add 20,000 every year because we'll have the lights on hand. So, I mean, we can deliberate that during the budget discussions, but I would imagine it's a diminishing value that would have to be chipped in on a year-over-year basis.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Sharon, if I could ask you, is the 20,000 just for procurement, or is that partially labor, or is labor over and above that for installation?
Your worship, labor is over and above that. The Optimist Club, of course, are volunteers, and Hydro also has a special fund that they will take their labor costs out of. Our Public Works and Parks Department typically provide support already to the BIA in decorating downtown. So that would be part of our day-to-day operations. But to Councillor Peters' comment, absolutely, we are looking at purchasing lighting and keeping that year over year. Some of the larger scale items that we are looking at, cost in the $3,000 to $5,000 range, and those are the small features. There are things that are in the $75,000 range that we're staying away from. But absolutely, they will become town property, and Optimist and Hydro have been very supportive in our Christmas in the Park and relighting each year. And as we need to replace, we replace.
Very good. Okay, Councillor Sherwood and then Councillor Taylor. Go ahead, Councillor Sherwood.
I believe Councillor Taylor had his hand up before me, so he can go ahead.
Okay, Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Councillor Sherwood. I just wanted to answer the question from experience. So I've been one of these sad souls that have been out in the cold for many years putting the lights up in the park. And it's between $5,000 and $6,000 a year, just to answer Councillor Peters' question, that you need to do in terms of buying new lights because they break and don't work over time and whatnot. So if you think about that for one large park, for what this is for a smaller item, it might not be as bad. And if I may ask a question, Your Worship, on it. In terms of the lights, Ms. Doherty, where will you be storing the lights? Will they be coming to, and I know it's a town shed, but I call it the Optimist shed. Is that where you're storing the $20,000 worth of lights moving forward, or how will that be dispersed? Will the town have a stash and then the Optimist have a stash, or what's the plan?
Yeah, Your Worship, to address Councillor Taylor's question, we're not quite there yet, but certainly Mr. Brett and Mr. Barry from Public Works and Parks are fully supportive of this, and I believe they're already scratching their head in terms of some storage. Certainly, we are hoping that the partnership continues year over year with the Optimist Club, and if our Small King Club should resurrect themselves next year for a parade or anything else, we would certainly be willing to work with them as well. They have some storage space as well, I understand. So certainly we're looking at some town space for equipment.
Okay, Councillor Sherwood.
And yes, Your Worship, with regards back to the BIA, just purchasing the $20,000 worth of lighting for the medians downtown, hopefully we could request upon for storage for that with the town as well, because that could be a problem with us. But the thing I wanted to bring to your attention is those funds became available due to some significant events that didn't happen. Our Taste of Orangeville didn't happen this year, along with our our Moonlight Madness isn't going to happen, and of course our Halloween harvest. But we're going to be luckily have these every year going forward for a significant length of time. So that's why I'm really thankful that we're considering this being an annual thing, because you will see those going out on the street every year.
Right, very good. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor from Councillor Post. It included directing town staff to add $20,000 in the 2021 budget for consideration this fall. So, and that was seconded, I believe, by Councillor Sherwood. So, can we vote on Councillor Post's motion? All in favor?
Yes.
That passes unanimously. And before Sharon goes, Sharon, I want to thank you again for the hard work that you and your team put in on our drive-in concert series. It was put together in short order and done exceptionally well. I want to thank you again for your hard work on that project.
Thank you, Your Worship. It was a pleasure working on the project, and our team is already excited about this adventure, and we'll be launching tomorrow.
Okay, well, we're looking forward to it. I'm sure everybody in town and in the surrounding area is going to look forward to driving around and seeing everything. And I'm really excited about the fire truck and Santa Claus to visit the neighborhoods. That'll be wonderful as well. So thank you. Okay, moving on, we've got 12.5, the home registration bylaw. This is a report CPS 2020-04. Home registration bylaw, that the trial program report be received, and the council report a bylaw to regulate the keeping of hens in the town of Orangeville as outlined in attachment 1 report CPS 2020-04. Can we have a motion on this, please? Councillor Peter. Anybody wish to second that motion? Deputy Mayor McIntosh, can we have some comments from council? Councillor Peters, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was actually going to propose a brief amendment. We've talked about this issue quite a bit, and I think the survey results spoke volumes quite a bit. But of all the pieces that I think are under debate or under discussion, I guess, we've had some public opinion on a variety of issues, setbacks and coop sizes and the length of the trial program, all that kind of thing. I'm generally, of course, behind the program. I still feel the number of hens is sort of the number one issue that we should still discuss. All the other municipalities that were researched, except for one, allowed more than 2. And just as a point of comparison, the cost issue that's also been brought up by a number of residents. Right now, we have a 3-dog maximum bylaw, if I'm not mistaken. And based on the fees to license those dogs, you're in the $100 range. So we're saying $100 for 3 dogs, but we're saying $110 for 2 chickens. And I understand the bylaw commitment in terms of inspecting the coops and property standards and whatnot. So on a cost recovery basis, we'll have to find ways to make those homes that are a little less fortunate, give them potential to enroll in the program. But in terms of the output, getting that extra 50% of the eggs on a weekly or annual basis, I think is important. And it still keeps in line with the number of other pets that are allowed in town. And so, I think it makes the economics a little stronger. And I find it hard to believe that a neighbor would take exception to 3 hens if they weren't already taking exception to 2 hens kind of thing. So I don't think it dramatically increases the footprint or the commitments. The participants are, hopefully by all accounts going to uphold the principles of the bylaw, and hopefully the trial is a success. But I really think, starting with a slightly higher number would give the program a better chance of success.
So just to recap, your friendly amendment would be to increase the number of hens from 2 to 3. Is that correct, sir?
Yeah, that would be a maximum. If a participant only wants 2, then of course they could still only have 2.
Okay. Well, so You seconded this, Deputy Mayor. Does that make sense to you? Would you like to approve that?
That's fine. That's fine. I'd like to also comment if I could.
Yeah, go right ahead.
A comment and a question. Are we only issuing 30 permits for this?
Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought I read. I know there's probably some opposition on council, and I did read a lot of negative comments and some very interesting comments on the public comment part. Again, this is a trial. We're only issuing 30 permits. Surely we're not going to get out of hand with 30 permits, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I compare it a bit to the burn bylaw. You know, people are going to have fires. They're going to have chickens if they want to. Let's try to regulate them and do them safely and the correct way. I'd be surprised if we got 30 permits total, to be honest with you, but that's just my opinion. Why not go ahead and try it? It's only 30, but again, that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's, you know, with the word pilot involved in this, that's what got me on board, because I think we need to measure it and take whatever information comes back through the complaint process, and then we'll be revisiting this in 2 to 3 years. So I'm totally in favor of this at this moment. So we've got the motion on the floor, an amendment by Councillor Peters, seconded by Deputy Mayor McIntosh, to increase the count from 2 to 3 hens. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Taylor is opposed. Very good. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to the appointment of property standards officers. This is a good news story. We need some additional bylaw enforcement in our town, and we're very fortunate to be taking on 2 new employees, in Peter Van Ness and Chris Taylor. So the recommendation is that the report CPS 2020-002 regarding the appointment of bylaw property standards officers be received, and the council pass a bylaw to appoint Peter Van Ness and Chris Taylor as bylaw property standards officers. May I have a motion on that? Councillor Andrews, seconded by Councillor Post. Any further comments? Councillor Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, and this is only partly tongue-in-cheek, but I noticed the phrase weed inspector in the report. That is just related to the property maintenance piece. Is that sort of meant to capture that aspect, say boulevard maintenance, that kind of thing?
That is correct.
Okay.
And
it's a new phrase for me.
And I'm not sure if it's in the report, councillors, but there is a thought that there's going to be some expanded hours in terms of evening and potentially weekend coverage, which we haven't had in the past. Yet to be exactly determined, but that's good news as well. So, okay, all in favor?
Yes.
That's passed unanimously. Thank you very much. So on to correspondence, we have quite a list here, 13.1 through 13.33. We did comment on some of it earlier because a lot of this is with respect to the transfer station. So we need a motion to receive all of the correspondences from 13.1 to 13.33. May I have a motion, please? Councillor Peters, second by Councillor Sherwood. Any further comments? All in favor? That's passed unanimously. Thank you very much. And yes, go right ahead.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just clarify that we're just going to include in that particular motion that you're just dealing with just the receipt of the BIA correspondence and Mr. Carter's correspondence.
Right. So councillors, if we can have a friendly amendment to add those 2 pieces of correspondence on, please, to that list. Thank you. All right, moving on to 14. We have a number of minutes from various committees. Recommendation is the minutes listed below, 14.1 through 14.7, be received. May I have a motion, please? Councillor. Well, we'll speak to it if you wish to speak to it. Let's just have a motion first. Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Andrews. Anybody would like to speak to these minutes? Councillor Taylor.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Sherwood. I'm frantically looking for the phrase in the Heritage Orangeville meeting minutes, but I'm sure I read a reference that the committee was looking at revisiting the heritage areas, the discussions that were done a couple of years ago, and I was just curious what that was about. It was just a fleeting comment here as I frantically look for it, but I'm wondering if there's any information that you could share on
expansion of the heritage.
Yes, through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Taylor. If you recall, pre-election in September of 2018, a consultant came forward with the previous council in expanding the Heritage District area to include Zina Street and Little York Street in the area Bethia, and that was tabled and didn't go forward. So that has always sort of been sitting in the background with Heritage Orangeville, whether this new council would be of an appetite to bring that back. We have decided just at our recent board meeting, we have several other little projects that we have on the go right now, and I think we're going to discuss that in the new year. So it isn't coming to council anytime soon.
Thank you, Councillor Sherwood and Councillor Taylor. Go right ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Through Your Worship to Councillor Sherwood, is that something that's coming through this term of council, or do you think that would be next term of council? Are you close in the next 2 years kind of thing, or? Yes, through you to Councillor Taylor, our hope is that will be coming back before the end of this term of council, yes. Thank you, Councillor Sherwood.
Yes. Okay, I just got a note here. The hen bylaw will be coming back to our next meeting for final approval, and just wanted to thank bylaw enforcement officer Carrie Cunningham for all of her hard work on pulling that report together. So Carrie, thank you very much. All right, on to item 15. Any notices of motion prior to meeting?
Did you take the vote, Mr. Mayor, on the minute?
Oh, maybe not. Maybe we didn't call for a vote here in the minutes. My apologies. Could we have a vote on this receiving all of the minutes of various committees 14.1 through 14.7? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
That's passed unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to 15. Again, no notices of motion prior to meeting. Any notices of motion after meeting? Councillor Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a heads up, as I'm sure many councillors are aware, there's a lot of discussion about the proposed Highway 413, the GTA West project. And while it doesn't run directly through Orangeville as a neighboring community, I think it'll impact us, and many municipalities are starting to create motions and form opinions, I guess, on this project, even though it seems like it's in the distant future. It's sort of at the table at the moment for discussion. And so it's come up at Credit Valley Conservation. We've seen a lot of motions from both regional councils and local councils in the GTA and the GTA West. So I'm hoping to bring a few of those arguments to the table for this group in a coming meeting.
Councillor Peters, have you looked at the route of the 413?
Yes, I'm familiar with it.
Where it reconnects with Highway 401 at some point to the west?
It connects down south through portions of Caledon and Brampton, yeah.
So will 413 cross our rail corridor?
Yeah, potentially based on our ownership. Yeah, I would have to double check, but I'm fairly certain, yes.
So that's an interesting thought, because having that, what I think, and I think others think of having a recreational trail at some point down in the future would be disrupted by a major highway. So it is something for us to consider.
It's a good point that we do have a land interest in, if not the exact vicinity, certainly very, very close by.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Any new business, councillors? Oh, here we go. Councillor Sherwood and Councillor Peters. And I just wanted to reiterate something else. Go ahead, Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, Your Worship. Thank you. I don't know if you've noticed, but downtown's looking spooky. So we're a little festive downtown. And one of the things that we would like to encourage people is we have all kinds of neat things set up where people can take selfies with our skeleton and different little creatures and features. So we are encouraging that you take a selfie and hashtag downtown Orangeville, and you will have a chance to win a great gift basket of all kinds of goodies from some of our downtown merchants. So we encourage you to get out, since we can't have our, the children going and getting candy door to door to our businesses. We've decided we could do this and families can partake in it at their own, but we would really like you to check out all of the ghosts and goblins that are along our beautiful downtown.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Peters.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Very briefly, I know it's getting late, but Sustainable Orangeville, along with CBC, hosted the much anticipated and delayed tree planting event last weekend. Thank you for also contributing to that event, Mayor Brown. We hit the maximum number we were allowed to based on CBC policy in record time. The community outreach and volunteerism is very much alive and well, and the planning was done at Harvey Curry Park at the south end near Town Line, and we only covered a portion of the area that we'd like to in the future. So barring another wave of this pandemic, we'll be back out there on Earth Week in 2021 with hopefully just as many, if not more, plantings in that area.
Great, excellent. Councillor Sherwood.
Sorry, Your Worship, just to go back to my ghosts and goblins, I got so excited I forgot to mention that I did not thank our great recreation staff for the assistance they gave to the BIA, particularly Kevin and I believe Chris and Adam were so instrumental in helping us get these all these structures up. And of course, I can't thank our BIA staff, with Allison and Kara and Julia and all the people in the task force. But I did want to mention how grateful we were for the town's park and recreation staff, and anyone that was behind the scenes. We're very thankful for them.
Very good. And again, I mentioned it earlier tonight, there's just one more thought. Dufferin Board of Trade has their Business Excellence Award on Wednesday. It's going to be a drive-in style at Rotary, similar to the drive-in concert series. So it's going to be an interesting and unique edition of the BEA Awards. So any other comments from councillors? Okay, moving along, we've got 19. This is that the bylaws listed below we read 3 times and finally passed. 19.1, a bylaw to adapt amendment number 124 to the official plan, which is the absolute insurance broker's application for official plan amendment and zoning amendments at 71 Fifth Avenue. 19.2, a bylaw to amend our zoning bylaw 2290 as amended with respect to parts of lots 1516, again municipally known as 71 Fifth, the absolute insurance broker. And then a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the corporation of the town of Orangeville, its regular and closed council meeting held on October 19, 2020. Madam Clerk wishes to interject here. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just with respect to the report that was on earlier on the agenda with respect to the appointment of municipal law enforcement property standards officers, it was included as part of the package on the agenda. However, it just missed being included within the bylaws, so I do respectfully ask that council include that at this point in time so that we can commence having our new officers enforced. Thank you.
So that is report CPS 2020-002, the bylaw to appoint Peter Vaness and Chris Taylor as bylaw officers. So we'll add that onto that list. May I have a motion, please, to pass these bylaws? Councillor Andrews, second by Councillor Post. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn, please. Deputy Mayor McIntosh, seconded by Councillor Peters. All in favor? Thanks, folks. All the best. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Night, everyone.